Morning, everyone. About to start a regular meeting of the LA County Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission, and we have the special honor of holding this meeting in Compton. It's been a long time, I think, since the commission has been in Compton, so this meeting is long overdue. We really appreciate all the community members shown up to participate. So let's dive in. We are going to have several issues on the agenda, including about discussing street takeovers and continue to discuss fatal shooting of Guardado and our invitation to the district attorney's office to come and address us. So why don't we begin? And I think the first issue is to take the roll. Call to order and take the roll.
Before we take the roll, we do have an announcement to make. So good morning and welcome. Public participation in our meeting is one of our main goals, and we welcome your comments in person, through WebEx, by telephone, or in writing. There will be an opportunity for public comment on each item and before the end of the meeting during general public comment. For items on the agenda, Chair Kennedy will introduce the item, presentations will be heard, the commission will discuss the item, and then public comment will be taken. For in-person comments, please fill out a public comment card and return it to the table with the public comment sign. If you are on WebEx, please raise your hand by selecting the hand symbol. If you called in to listen to the meeting, please press *3 on your telephone to activate the raise hand feature. We ask that all speakers ensure your comments abide by the meeting's code of conduct. Everyone will have 2 minutes to speak unless the chair determines otherwise based on the number of speakers signed up for each item. We will make a similar announcement in Spanish, and then I will take the roll.
Buenos días y bienvenidos. La participación pública en nuestras reuniones es uno de nuestro objetivo principal y agradecemos sus comentarios en persona y a través de WebEx, por teléfono y por escrito. Habrá una oportunidad por comentarios públicos sobre cada tema de la agenda y al final durante los comentarios general. Para los temas de la agenda, el Chair Kennedy presentará el tema. Se escucharán las presentaciones. Los miembros de la comisión discutirán el tema y después se tomarán los comentarios del público. Si desea comentar en persona, completa una tarjeta de comentarios y se le entrega a un miembro de del personal en la mesa asignada con el cartel del comentario público. Si está participando por WebEx, levante la mano y seleccione la imagen de la mano si quiere comentar. Si llamó para escuchar la reunión, oprima la tecla de la estrella y el número 3 en su teléfono para activar la función de la mano levantada. Les pedimos a todos los participantes que van a comentar que sus comentarios cumplan con el código de la conducta de la comisión. Todos los participantes que van a dar un comentario tendrán 2 minutos para comentar, a menos que el Chair Kennedy determine lo contrario en el tiempo asignado. Gracias.
Thank you, Chair Kennedy. I'll take the roll. Commission meeting. Chair Kennedy, Sean Kennedy.
Here.
Vice Chair Jamon Hicks.
Present.
Commissioner Bonner.
Here.
Commissioner Irma Higgins-Cooper. Commissioner Luis S. Garcia.
Here.
Commissioner Patricia Giggins. Commissioner James P. Harris.
Here.
Commissioner Hans Johnson. Chair Kennedy, we have a quorum. You may proceed.
Thank you. There's bad traffic, so maybe a couple commissioners are. Consent calendar, we have to approve the meetings from our last meeting on the 18th. Are there objections? Hearing no objections, it sounds like the consent calendar is approved. We normally begin our meeting marks. I was told that we don't sign the case.
That's correct, Chair Kennedy.
So, yes, it's public comment on item 1, which has just been the administrative stuff. Is there any?
No, no one has signed up for public comment.
Okay, we'll then go into the more substantive part of our meeting. This is reports and possible actions. So I understand that we have Sheriff Luna here. Sheriff, thank you for. And I understand you're about an hour, so I'm not going to do a report. But, I'm gonna take you out of order so you can send any updates or report that you want, because I want you to have all the time you need to interact at this meeting in Compton and to anything you want, Sheriff.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Oh, I'm leaving to another meeting with LA County Chiefs. There'll be several command staff and employees here, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. So just, I wanted to give an update on several items. I'm not getting way ahead of the agenda, but just some summary, and then I'll pause for any questions that any of the commission members, I'm sorry. So last time I came up here to speak, there was a lot of concern. This is regarding the 27 recommendations regarding deputy gangs. Very legitimate concerns from many commissioners about the pace things were proceeding forward. I said at that time that I was an impatient man, and there's a lot of work to be done, still work to be done. But since the last meeting, Eileen Decker, who couldn't be here this morning because she's meeting with attorneys from the Department of Justice on some of our settlement agreement challenges that we're having, has discussed with several commissioners, and in regards to specifically to the policies. So there has been discussion with the CLC. The policies, the 3 policies specifically that I'm referring to, are in draft form. I believe not all of you have seen them. Some of you have. The drafts have also been sent to the Inspector General comments, waiting on that. And we're getting the process of working different labor organizations. I know on the front end, talked about the importance of policies relating to gangs and cliques, emblems and tattoos, which are very important. But as we proceed forward, there's a lot of work to be done. And I believe one of those recommendations was to make sure that we were working with our labor partners in NALADS and POPE. That's exactly what we're doing. As you know, we're in the state of California. As any organization, you don't proceed forward without labor. That's exactly what we intend to do. The status of other recommendations was very clear in the recommendations that it was asking me as your sheriff to set the tone and send a clear message to all personnel. And I have been doing exactly that, speaking to all management personnel, specific expectations meetings for captains and above. I have attended several supervisor meetings, meaning new sergeants, soon-to-be sergeants, or people who have been sergeants for about a year. And I go to those meetings where I make the expectations clear. And I also, every time one of our academy classes graduate, and there's been several since I've been sitting in my chair, I go talk to them about my expectations, which includes this very important topic. Regarding community meetings, our Office of Constitutional Policing is currently working with the State's Department of Justice, are going to assist us in facilitating the meetings that we're talking about. So they are at neutral locations, and we hope to begin these meetings very soon. I talked about the training of supervisors. That is still ongoing and will continue. Heard talk, specifically budget talk, about assigning 2 captains to specific stations. Requested 6 captains in the budget, in this last budget, which the supervisors are still looking over and deliberating. And as of right now, I have received funding for, we're still trying to determine what specific stations they're going to go to. There is a lot of talk about Lancaster, Palmdale stations, those 2 stations, but the one station that about 99.9% sure that the second captain will land will be at the East Los Angeles station. Recently, we made a move and replaced the captain at that same East Los Angeles station. Promotions and tattoos, we have started asking the tattoo question during promotional interviews, captains and above. Had more time, I'd talk about specifically some of the challenges that's creating internally, but some good people, and we're going to work through it together. Risk management systems are currently one of my priorities was to modernize the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and there's a lot of work to do in that area. I talked last time about our computer-aided dispatch system, our hoarding management system, our jail management system. What we're also working on is developing an early intervention or early warning system. Speaking with different companies that are selling different products, and we're trying to see what best fits our current systems or the systems that we intend to move towards, so we can have that. Previous life, worked with the system that was really good and very beneficial to our community and our employees, including our supervisors and managers. Condition of employment, Assistant Sheriff Jill Torres is implementing a prohibition against joining gang and clique as a condition of employment. Internally, our undersheriff has developed a task force internal to the department initiative that a variety of management, supervisory personnel are engaged in regards to ending gangs and cliques for our department. And we have regular management discussions on these topics with our management group, typically at least on a weekly basis. That's the update in regards to the recommendations. So as you see, we're sitting idle. In some regards, some may argue we should be moving faster. This isn't about how fast we do it. This is about doing it right. Solving a challenge that's been in existence for decades. It's going to take a little bit of time, and continue to do everything I can to make sure we do this the right way for reasons. I'm going to pause there because I just wanted to there's a couple of other topics on the agenda that I want just to touch on, and then personnel here to depth as this session goes on. Would you like me to pause here to see if there's any questions from the commissioners regarding anything we just talked about?
Mentioned consulting Oversight Commission's ad hoc committee, gangs, cliques, discriminatory and exclusionary subgroups, and appreciate that opportunity. And we know that you are moving forward, and believe you should move forward with all speed here, particularly in terms of adopting the recommendations of this Oversight Commission, and I'm specifically referring to recommendations A2 and A3. This special counsel. And those are so important because those are policy provisions that would pivot forward any deputy joining or participating or being a member of a deputy gang and or clique. Right now, there's no policy banning that, and so there's no possibility of disciplining somebody who is open and notorious, let's say executioner, or some other member of a deputy. The question I have, though, I don't want to just make a speech here. I have a question. You indicated that that you can't proceed forward without labor. That statement just troubles me a little bit because I believe you can proceed forward even if ALADs not consent to policy changes. I think it's important to consult with labor, with and PAPOA. In fact, you might be an obligation under the collective bargaining agreement to consult, but they can't dictate ultimately. It's really, they don't run the department. They're not responsible. They're not accountable for the existence of deputy gangs running amok in the department, but you are. So ultimately, hear from them. I mean, but this has to be a reasonable time. It can't be, an extended period of time, at least in my opinion, sir. And then I think you just need to move out and clear that policy of the department is banning going forward deputy gangs. So that's my view. I guess my question is, when you said you can't proceed forward without labor, did you mean that actually labor has control over whether a policy is implemented in the Sheriff's Department?
No, I stand to be correct. I did say that, but as we move forward, I'm trying to do it with labor. It's a meet and confer process. We haven't officially got into that yet because those policies, I think, have come to you. To my knowledge, they have not officially gone to them yet because they're going through the process of you guys looking at the drafts, meaning the commissioners, the inspector general, and then they'll be next on the list of receiving those. We'll go through the meet and confer process, and you're right, at the end of the day, it is my responsibility only to make sure we move forward with these policies. But in the spirit of cooperation, everybody, this commission understands that it's easier to do it, and that's why it's one of the recommendations further down in the on the list that we get cooperation from the different labor organizations in the Sheriff's Department.
I think if possible, but I just want to say they may not have, I can't believe they don't officially have the recommendations, but let me just say, sir, that recommendations of the Civilian Oversight Commission well known to ALADs. In fact, I discussed them with ALADs back in January, so it's not as if they
don't have the policy. It's not the recommendations. There's a difference between the recommendations and then the 3 different policies regarding deputy gangs, the tattoos, and the emblems.
I take your point there. You're absolutely right. All right. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that for me. Appreciate that.
Are there other questions about this? I have a question, Sheriff. You said that your leadership are asking on promotion, sergeant and above, if the person seeking the promotion has a tattoo associated with the deputy gang, or is the department asking in deputy shootings if the alleged shooter has a tattoo associated with the deputy?
The tattoo issue will be asked, but in our process for promotion, there is a thorough review of employees' personnel history. That history includes IA complaints, deputy-involved shootings, uses of force. All those things are weighed and considered as part of the decision to promote somebody. So specifically, I think what you're asking is tattoos, one thing, but we're really focused on behavior, past behavior.
But my question was, when a deputy is involved in shooting or some other use of force, is the department asking that deputy, if they're in a deputy gang tattoo, to evaluate that as part of the decision-making shooting?
Yes,
That's being asked?
I believe it is. Let me confirm that, just to make sure, because I don't want to split hairs on something so important.
And second question is the department, when you that a deputy, I guess if you're asking in the shooting, and you learn that like two associated with the deputy, is the department notifying the district attorney's office that that deputy is likely to be prosecution witness, has that gang affiliation? Are you making that notification to the district attorney's office so that they can then carry out their constitutional obligation under the Supreme Court's Brady case to give the notification to the accused that the deputy testifying for the prosecution had to?
I'm pausing because I don't want to misanswer the question.
I respect that.
And as we're going through the process for the different motions, we are asking people if they have a tattoo. And but in regards to the gang affiliation, that's what I think Judge Bonner's asking about, is the policies as it specifically relates to specific tattoos and gangs. That's the goal. We're going to get there, but that's the goal in getting there, is to try, first of all, from the very beginning, was to eliminate this problem. Not going to happen overnight, but we're working towards that. I'm just telling you that under my administration, one is a process. That wasn't always the case before I got there. In that process, we are starting to ask questions about tattoos. If the issue of a tattoo comes up and somebody's in front of us, then what you're asking, we could go down that path. We got to check the legal aspects of it. To my knowledge, and I may be wrong, we have not run across that situation with people in front of us, meaning somebody across from us who's actually trying to be promoted. But I need to confirm that, please.
No, I understand, like a confirmation. I just want to make it clear. My question was not emotions, because I think you directly include that you are asking about tattoos for promotion. I'm asking, are you asking the same question when someone is involved in deputy shooting, and ask the question and telling the DA so that they can meet their Brady obligation, which is a case that was decided by the United States Supreme Court in 1963.
If we have any information that somebody's associated with the deputy gang, we're going to let the DA know. That's part of what the Office of Constitutional Policing is doing.
Are you asking for that information? That's what I'm. Question is the department asking people if they have to, it's associated with the gang, are they telling the,
If it comes up, yes.
if it comes, are you asking, when someone's involved in a deputy shooting, do you say, do you tattoo?
Let me get that information from you and
Okay.
get back to you.
Okay.
That's really an internal affairs, question, whether the internal affairs ask that question or not. That's going to take some leadership on the sheriff's part. The reality is, it's not misconduct to be a member of a deputy clique or a deputy gang. That's why the policy is so important. The sheriff alluded to having these policies in place, because if it's not misconduct, asking the question, right? So we need the policies. You underscored the reason we need the policies. You can't even go to these other questions until you have the policies. Commissioner Harris.
Just as a point of correction, there's a deputy involved shooting. Internal Affairs is not involved in that until a long time into the future.
See,
That's after the Homicide Bureau gets done with their investigation. I think that's where the question is trying to be. Is Homicide Bureau routinely asking the question, have a tattoo, are you gang, if a deputy is involved in a DIS, a deputy involved shooting, as just a routine part of their normal criminal investigation?
Homicide would not ask that question.
Okay.
It's a separate criminal investigation. Internal Affairs would ask that question down the road.
Right, that's way down the road. It's not, right now, it currently is not part of Homicide Bureau's investigation, DIS, to ask the question if they in fact have a tattoo and or part of a gang, subgroup, whatever.
Currently, you're correct.
that may change, right?
We have a lot of options on the table that we're researching, trying to figure out as we move ahead. Because not always satisfied with the way things have been done. So we need to assess and look at everything we're doing, what we've been doing, it's worked out as we move towards the future. And that's part of this whole assessment. Making sure we're going to do this right.
Look forward to the answer regarding the shootings and whether the information is turned over to the DA. I have so much respect for, just want to say, Rob, there's a policy or not, there's an existing state law, section 13670 of Penal Code, that says its membership in a law enforcement gang, Rex, law enforcement agency in the state of California, to have an anti-law enforcement gang policy in place to enforce it and authorizes termination based on it. I don't know, Sheriff, how implementing section 13670 if nobody is asking that question when we are confronted with serious issues like a deputy involved shooting or a constitutional obligation to notify prosecution that a testifying deputy is in a deputy gang underbreak.
And that's exactly why I'm talking about this is all in progress. This ship is moving forward. It may not be moving as forward or as fast as everyone would like, but it's moving forward. I could take you back to 8 months ago and where we were and where we're at today, and we're in a completely different place. I understand the frustration. I'm frustrated, but because I can't answer, I don't want to answer today doesn't mean I'm trying to hide from it. What I'm trying to do is give all of you in our community an absolute accurate answer.
I respect that. So I'll try to be patient. Anyone else? Did you want to finish? You had some other stuff, or should we? Reports? It's really up to you, Sheriff.
Yeah, there's a couple of other things I'd like to touch on.
Sure.
If there was no other questions regarding patients.
I don't see any from the commission, so why don't you go ahead?
Okay. We were talking about deputy involved shootings, and just an update because it's been asked, legitimately asked, and there's a lot of legitimate concerns out there. regarding the Guardado investigation, which is going to be talked about more in depth. And I just want to put it out there for the record that we are having discussions with outside agencies to conduct an independent review and are waiting for their decisions. I don't want to get into what agencies yet, out of respect for the people that we're talking to, until they make the decision to take the case.
Thank you. Anything else?
The only other thing, two other quick things. I know that our staff from Compton's going to be talking about street takeovers. That has been a challenge across the country, specifically here for our community in Compton. We are not ignoring it. It's an issue that's complicated. We are working with partner agencies such as the Los Angeles Police Department, the California Highway Patrol. Actually, I was up in Sacramento recently, and I personally met with Sean DeRee, the new commissioner from the CHP. I specifically asked him for help here in the Compton area. And from what we see, we're starting to receive some of that assistance, which is great. I think for our community members here in Compton, I'm looking forward to having our staff talk about a lot of the good work that they're doing. But again, I do want to caution, specifically people who are involved in this activity, that the direction we've given is that we will, when this activity is occurring, we will cite, we will impound vehicles. That's the way we're going to send a very strong message. And later on, you will hear specific statistics and how I believe we're changing some of the tide of what's going on here, specifically in Compton, with that level of activity. So I do want to thank our personnel. They've been doing a really good job of, if you compare it to where we were again several months ago. And we have to keep, as they say, the gas or our foot on the gas pedal. Just real quick, because I know we're going to get into custodial issues. It is no secret, it's very well documented that we have some challenges with LA County jail system. Assistant Sheriff Aloma will be talking in depth and answering questions specifically to that. But I just want to throw out some things because typically you only hear the negative coming out from that area. And there are some negatives. And there's areas that we definitely need improvement on, which it does include upgrading our current facilities to something that we call more of a care facility or campus, which we're working on with multiple partners to try and get there. But just from a jail perspective, we have a body-worn camera proposal that hasn't been done inside the jail. We're working on a jail management system. And I know that sounds odd, but a lot of the challenges we have in our custodial environment is that we don't have the current technology to do the tracking that we need. We're kind of hybridly putting other things together, at least for the meantime, but we are working with the Board of Supervisors to enable us to pay for a jail management system, which I think will make a lot of the challenges, not all of them, but a lot of the challenges going away. Working on, for example, education on hate crimes and tolerance with our inmate population. We're working on looking at a new program to bring tablets in for our inmates so they can visit with their attorneys, family members, and take our education level inside to a different level. I also want to recognize the assistant sheriff because in the last 30 to 60 days, we've been able to reduce our daily inmate population by an average of approximately 800 to 1,000 inmates. And that's been through a lot of very good and hard work. And when you look at our population, for the jails, and you look at our average population rate, meaning that 95% of the people we have in our custody are there for felonies, because there's a misnomer that we have a lot of people there for lower level crimes. There are some, and we're working very hard to make sure that is not occurring. But there's a lot of work to be done, specifically at the IRC, working on, for example, a computer application that's being developed to monitor and track processing delays, which have been well documented in some of the challenges that we're having with our settlement agreement. So it's just a real quick summary of a lot of good work that's being done. We're not very good at marketing the good work that we do. And we've got to get better at that, because our inmates, I would say, are not in the best of conditions, and neither are our employees that are working under those very difficult conditions in some facilities that frankly shouldn't be standing anymore. Doing the best we can. So that is my quick summary, and I stand ready to answer any questions on anything stated.
Personally, thank you for taking this commission's concerns of shooting and investigation of that shooting seriously. I think outside agency reevaluating the shooting is is a step in the right direction. I personally really appreciate doing something like that. I want to acknowledge progress when this is looking me in the face, so thank you.
Question about that? Realize as to what you can say, Sheriff, but is the idea, though, that the outside agency would be determined, say, further investigation is warranted? If it determined that, would that outside agency then investigate a follow-up? Is that clear yet? Is that subject to discussions with the outside agency?
That's what's being discussed right now as we're discussing, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure we did everything right. And if we didn't, accountable. And I think as many discussions as have taken place regarding this case, I think the only way we can turn back to the community is to have an independent agency come in and do. So that's what we're working on. That's what we're working towards. And I'm hoping that can be accomplished. And as that goes on,
Thank you.
I want to echo what the chair said, and Commissioner Harris nodded along this agreement, enthusiastically agreed. Side analysis of the Guardado case is to be applauded. Whether you're making that effort, it's critical. I'm a little troubled by what you said. You said to be sure we did everything right, and if we didn't, be held accountable. And you, side detectives, took the fifth. Case was submitted to the DA with the case without them. So still, I think, inappropriate at this point. Clearly, that case is mishandled. Doesn't mean that the result wasn't the correct result, but the progress, the way it was done, is something that the public couldn't possibly have confidence in. So I really appreciate that you're sitting down with an agency. I hope that they will, so that when we're done, say, you know, what was done here was procedurally wrong. His office standing by it and admitting it based on that wrong, but facts. I think the damage is already done. I think it's hard for them to walk it back, but I think it's necessary to have them really. So I think that's a positive one. The second thing I want to clarify is you said that it's a misnomer that how you put it, a misnomer that there are a lot of people in jail for lower level. It's not a misnomer. A spreadsheet which lists 1,000 plus, close to 2,000 people are in jail. Personally, misnomer. Now, it is also true that there are many people in jail for serious crimes. So that's the case. But to say that there aren't a bunch of people who are in jail, call that a misnomer, I think. Again, I appreciate that indeed there's a reduction in the population, partly because of court ruling. I think it's a misnomer.
The 90 they're on felonies, and that means pretrial felonies, and that means AB 109. So he's saying about 5% are there serving misdemeanor sentences of up to 1 year, as imposed by a Superior Court judge. Do you disagree with that? I mean, what is the data?
I don't have that statistic in front of me, but I do think that that's not an unreasonable assessment. Some of those felons are called low level, since they're commercial burgs, in some cases. And then some of the misdemeanors I would consider higher level, such as I discussed with the sheriff, domestic violence or sex offender cases, which are misdemeanors but still shouldn't be seriously. And that's what's reflected in the zero bail.
I totally disagree with you. I mean, shouldn't be taken seriously. Look, a Superior Court judge, some of those cases are busted down from felonies to misdemeanor plea. For you to sit here and say that somebody should be released, it's not your judgment. I don't even think it should be the sheriff's judgment. The sheriff only has a judgment here because of a 30-year-old consent decree called Rutherford. Why should the sheriff have the authority? But he does. But I don't think we should be dictating to the sheriff methodologies as to who should be released. You don't just say, "Oh, this is a X. It's correct." You really need to look at cases, and I would expect the sheriff and the sheriff's department to do that, determining who should be released. Right now, by the way, Rutherford is being applied with, has been for years. I mean, everything's getting busted down. I mean, every sentence gets busted down to, a 2-month sentence from the Superior Court. That's 1 day. You're just in and out. So we have a bad system here. I'm not going to, I just think we've got to be very careful in criticizing the sheriff as to, that's a huge responsibility as to who to release under Rutherford. Now, you also said there's overcrowding in the county jail system. That's not true. There isn't overcrowding, plenty of bed space. The only overcrowding is there's a lack of staff. It's a lack of deputy sheriffs to do it. So it's just, I just can't, I just can't sit around here and hear the myths being, repeated. Again, there's no overcrowding in the county.
If you define overcrowding as there's enough physical space for more people, you're
That's bed
absolutely
space.
correct.
Well, that's how that's defined by every prison system that I know of. It defines it by bed space.
In
So
California,
if you,
BSCC defines it also by the availability of staff. They put a cap amount on how many folks are permissible within the jail, and it's not based solely on bed space.
okay, so staff is, if you need more staff to have needs the bed space, well, that's a sheriff, the budget, and the board of supervisors. In any event, just saying, let's be careful here, just telling the sheriff what to do in that regard. That's a huge responsibility. He has that responsibility because of an old case that's 30 years old.
I believe the Constitution also requires it, but the list that I mentioned comes from the same evaluation that was made in a case recently by a Superior Court in the going schedule in Los Angeles, and that was also implemented in the state during COVID. I agree with your point that it's not to the OID side who should be released when there's overcrowding, and it is legal in the sheriff's ability. And I agree with your assessment that the system is broken because it should be judging decisions. It should be based upon the amount of jail space we have, state evaluations, which is so I did not mean to suggest we should be making the decisions.
In any event, by the way, send me that, is that the Superior Court case or?
The Equity case, we will.
E.
Just want to point out that IG has provided a list of about 2,000. Their determination would be appropriate for release. And then I also hear that we have released 800 to 1,000. So I've got to believe that perhaps some of the people on the list of 2,000 are also part of the people in that 1,000 who've been released. So I again want to applaud Assistant Sheriff Aloma making those releases possible. That's myself and Commissioner Garcia last week in Med Central Jail. And I'm happy to report walking through IRC, it was an ad house as I have seen it in the past. Went in there, it was clean, people were doing their job. We went to modules and had a look at what was going on. It's still a jail. It's still not a great place to be. And yeah, you've got a lot of challenges there. But looked a lot better than where I've seen in the past. Also been in the jail 3 or 4 years, multiple times, and witnessed conditions, and it's better. But you're right, the staffing is a huge problem. So recognize that. We saw it ourselves. Staffing is a huge issue. Your budget request will be supervisors favorably, hire these people and get academy classes going so we can get custody. But a lot of good work is being done. Yeah, there are huge challenges still to be faced, but Assistant Sheriff Aloma, everyone working in custody division there, shoulder to the wheel. Again, I know there will always be criticism, and I totally accept that, but it's a lot better than we've seen it. Thank you.
Last, thank you for these comments. It is a tough situation, tough environment. Please know we are working very hard. First time in many years, and one can argue our Office of Constitutional Policing and our custody staff is working together closer with attorneys, settlement agreements to make sure we're actually checking. And part of that is devoting or funding and staffing. Obviously, we're shorthanded on the deputy side. We're shorthanded for the national health side, working very hard to close those gaps. But we're also working very hard in budgeting more maintenance staff to make sure, like when I go through there every 3 months, I actually literally talk to the inmates. And when somebody says, hey, our toilet's been stuffed, at least for a day, I ask those, why is the toilet stuffed? And when I talk to myself, the janitorial staff, they're saying, hey, there's only one of me for this whole area. Questions start, why is there only one person? So those are the hard issues that we're addressing. Cleanliness, having more janitorial staff to make sure constantly clean. Recognition that when you walk in there, you do see improved conditions. Are they where there should be? We can argue, but they're better than they have, better every year.
Commissioner Garcia, can you speak into the mic? We're having some problems with the folks online being able to hear us, so if you could speak directly into the mic.
So when I had the opportunity to go into the jail with not only Commissioner Harris, but a few weeks before, I had went in with our partners over at the Civil Brand Commission. We went in on a Friday night, actually, and we were down there in IRC, and as the buses started coming in, process. And then, so, you know, what we observed, it just seemed like a regular Friday night, coming from courts, et cetera. And we went over to the HOH unit over in Twin Towers, and I got to talk to some of the individuals in through the cell door, and one of the concerning things that I saw was there was a cell that was right next to a plumbing door, where the plumbing was at, and there was water leaking, and it was going into the cell. And so both the inmates, both the people in there, had blankets on the floor, and there was gnats coming out of the basin. And the sergeant had told us, yeah, they've put in a work order and they've been waiting, and it's just waiting for them to come pick it up. And so she said that they were going to hopefully get do a cell move if try to get an emergency cell move out of. I don't know what the outcome was but in my visit with Commissioner Harris, I was able to go over to the step-down unit, step-down, and completely night and day as far as what the programming was offered and what was provided to the individuals with serious mental illness, the HOH housing units. And then I had the opportunity to walk over to the 5,000 floor to see the MOH dorms up in 5,000. And we were in the booth and looking out into the dorm, and dorm was what concerned me, from a person from lived experience and being in the jails, was the triple bunks. The whole dorm was filled with triple bunks. And I know that hasn't always been the case, because I remember the days when it was 2 bunks. And that was the 80s and the 90s. And so I saw these individuals with these mild to moderate, this would be the correctional health classification under FH. And, basically they're just doing what they did back when I was in 9,000 floor in the 80s, watching TV, playing dominoes, no programming. And so now I feel where we're at in this time and place. It's like 10 years ago when I did my dissertation on EBI in the jails, I was in the 5,000 floor and I saw programming in there. And then now, and tablets were being introduced. In fact, they were introduced. Then budget cuts and, so bringing all this to the forefront, because I believe right now that, something happened where it just seems like programming was just pulled from, was it COVID? Was it, I think at least from in Central Jail and what I saw in Twin Towers, I think the hope would be that, programming can be increased, especially for those with the HOH and MOH, because they're all coming back. They're all going to come home to the communities, very much like how I did. So I think increasing the access to program vital and necessary to get to because we all know what's the problem with the jail, and specifically Mid-Central Jail.
I appreciate that input. We can get back to you on what happened with that specific cell. So we can follow up with you. COVID did have a very negative impact on programming. That's in our history. As we move forward, we aim to get better. But just for our community members, the population in LA County Jail pre-COVID was close to 18,000. At times I was told it swelled to almost 20,000. As of yesterday, it was 13,280, I believe it was. Sergio can correct me if I'm wrong. So we are in a different place today. Not saying we're at a place, that's it, we're satisfied. We got a lot of work to do. Population-wise, there's no comparison to where we were even pre-COVID to where we are today. Applaud the staff there. It's not just LA County Sheriff's staff, it's correctional health and other partners, because we have many partners there, and everybody working very hard.
Just wanted to add one more thing that I remember. In a conversation with one of the who he was working overtime, he was sharing with us a program that he was a part of, and he was really enthusiastic about it. It was, for individuals that had been in restricted housing, basically isolation for a period of time. So they were being moved into a new dorm, or I believe they called it grouping, where getting them socialized to eventually, because they're going to be coming at some point in time. So he shared it was basically a new program that was getting started. And I thought that was important because as we all know, like with the Department of Corrections, there's with those security housing units, I've been involved with this years ago, where people were put in for terms of time. And they ended that practice and moved it into, yards where they can basically socialize and program. So to hear that was happening in the LA County jail system, I was surprised. And so when you're isolated in a cell, especially in CJ in a module, it impacts you as seeing that and as hearing it process. I can only sustained and it continued.
What we'll do, sir, is start inviting some of the graduations that we're having for some of our programs. I was proud that last week I went to CDRF jail down in Linwood, and I participated in a graduation for a soccer program that we brought in from England to hear the incarcerated ladies give their speeches of how to graduate, participate in this program. I lost sleep for good reasons, just remember their speeches and how much it meant to them, and just the opportunities in the future to really look at some of these situations as you're describing differently. Enthusiastic of our employees participating with them in the graduation was just amazing.
So we're going to move on to work. Very able executive director to and make some introductions. So Danielle, I'm going to let you take the floor.
Thank you, Chair Kennedy. First, I'd like to thank the City of Compton and the Mayor, Emma Sharif, for allowing us to host our meeting at this facility. We appreciate her support and assistance that helped us to bring this month's regular meeting closer to the community in Compton. Mayor Sharif had to step out briefly for a meeting, but she will be returning when we discuss street takeovers. That's something she's been very concerned about for the city, and so she's going to come back so she can speak on that. I'd like to tell you about some of our recent community engagement events. Since the last meeting, we held 3 additional sessions related to Los Angeles County jails. I'll just stop. Thank you, Sheriff. We appreciate you being here. Thank you. They focus on well-being in jail, transitioning out of jail, and reducing recidivism. If you missed them, you can watch them on our Facebook or YouTube pages at LA County COC. I'd also like to especially thank Commissioner Garcia, who moderated each of the 4 sessions of the jails conference and shared his personal story, which I think made it very meaningful to the folks who attended. We had a number of beneficial panelists, including department heads and nonprofits and people with expertise in providing services to system-involved members of the community. We also had community members who asked for assistance while the series was going on, and we were able to provide some warm handoffs to get them the resources that they needed. Our upcoming community engagement events include hosting informational tables at this weekend's Juneteenth celebration in South Los Angeles. And on Saturday, June 24th, we are scheduled to host a community meeting at the Florence Library in South Los Angeles at 10 a.m. You can go to our website at coc.lacounty.gov to get that information. We also plan to have a investigation shooting, so that should be very interesting as we're talking about the Guardado case. We'll also be at the Probation Department Staff Training Office in Pico Rivera on July 15th to host another town hall meeting. Finally, as I mentioned at our last meeting, we have 1 vacant community commissioner position. That position is open for application. You can go to our website to find that. It's open until June 30th. If you have any questions about the position, you could ask some of the commissioners that we have here to learn more about the role and the expectations. And again, to submit your application, you can look at the bulletin on our website at coc.lacounty.gov. Thank you, Chair Kennedy.
Thank you, Danielle. Max, I know you've had some engagement already, but does the OIG want to report on anything else?
Well, you have on calendar our PRIA report, so at whatever time is appropriate for you, we can talk about that a little bit. I don't actually have much to say about it aside from the mechanics, so I guess I'll give you the summary up front about how it came to pass. Under the previous administration, the Sheriff's Department told us that they were in full compliance with PRIA and we should begin a set of rolling audits. We were skeptical, and we discussed with them the possibility of doing some audits to test that theory rather than simply begin nonstop audits of all facilities. And so ultimately that was agreed upon. We have done a series of audits. We're not complete yet, but you have before you one of those reports. And as you'll see, the Sheriff's Department is not in compliance with PRIA. That shouldn't be a shock because we previously, years ago, the county had what was called a mock audit done in which the Sheriff's Department voluntarily agreed to have an external agency come in and audit in order to learn what the path forward would be to ultimate compliance. And that was a good thing for them to have done, but of course they weren't in compliance. And they're still not in compliance. And if you look through the report in detail, you can look at the things that still need to be done. There's a lot of systemic things that need to be addressed. The way complaints are handled is a big piece. And of course, this is all happening, as we've just been discussing, in the context of a jail that has more people than the BSCC provides that it should have. And as Judge Bonner pointed out, it's a staffing issue, not a space issue, but it does impact upon the department's ability to comply with the federal law and the various requirements of it. So I don't expect the Sheriff's Department to come into compliance soon with PRIA, but I'm glad that they are making an effort to move in that direction. And I don't want to go into details on the report because it's their ongoing audits, but I will say that it is my impression that as we've gone forward with one audit after another, that there have been some improvements. In other words, the department is paying attention to what we're telling them and making adjustments. Doesn't mean it's all suddenly fixed, but they are, as the sheriff said, moving in the correct direction. These are station jail audits. They're not of the main facilities that we talk about when we talk about most of the folks who are in custody. Have to do with generally temporary holding facilities. So it's a different set of issues, but that's what we've been reporting on in those audits. The most troubling thing you may see in there is a lack of cooperation in providing details regarding investigations. That's a requirement for PRIA audits. That was under the previous administration. Because of the way auditing works, it's not like OIG work in general, in which we can adjust ourselves to find out what the facts are and address them fairly. Audits have a very strict time frame and procedure. So as a result, the department doesn't get the opportunity with a new sheriff to change its behavior instantly. So I expect over time, and I think we've already seen a change in how they approach. Expect that problem, which if you read the detail of the report, a warning light may go off because you'll be reading something to some extent that's historical, and you may find that in the future there's less of that. I certainly hope so, and it's been my impression. That's all I would say about that. There was a report this morning about a conditions issue in our report involving hypothermia. I think it's an ongoing problem, again, having to do, as the sheriff talked about, the facilities problems within the jails, and then again, the staffing problem, both in custody and medical, need to respond to people with problems. This is a problem within our jail, which is one reason I harp upon the issue of overcrowding, as I describe it, because of the constitutional requirement regarding the conditions within the jail. And although it might be one solution for the board to provide additional staff, it's not. The Constitution doesn't measure it that way. It simply says if you're above what you can protect, then you have to reduce your population, at least until such time as you increase your staff. So that's why I bring that up a lot, and that's touched on in our quarterly report and was in the paper this morning. Other than that, I'll simply answer any questions if anybody. Sure. Thank you.
Have we ever been, say we have the sheriff run facilities in
No, and to be fair, most custody facilities in the country are not in compliance. Unlike the gang statute, which went into effect a year and a half ago and requires action that the Sheriff's Department hasn't taken, very bad thing, the Prison Rape Elimination Act has been in place for over a decade, and it specifically provided a path for a slow transition of custody facilities in the country to place, in my opinion, they should have been decades ago. But the whole legislative scheme is we're dealing with the entire country, many different situations. We're pushing them forward in terms of appropriate procedures, and so it's designed to be an incredibly slow process. There are no initial penalties. Ultimately, you can receive penalties in funding. Again, because so many facilities in the country are out of compliance, I don't expect the Sheriff's Department suddenly to be, declared ineligible for federal funding, although it's possible. So it's yes, they're completely in compliance. They have been always, and not the only ones.
I'd like to offer the opportunity for commissioners to give updates on their ad hocs. Does anyone want to report on the work of their ad hoc?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
As part of the Conditions of Confinement Ad Hoc Committee, call attention to the report attached in today's agenda. At the Commission's request, the Sheriff's Department has submitted a report on conditions of confinement, which includes public data sharing from the Custody Services Division for the first quarter of this year. The report includes a summary on the effort to reduce the jail population, processing delays, and overcrowding issues. Data shows that numbers related to grievances, town halls, inside the jails, and the top issues discussed at those town halls. The Sheriff's Department report also provides the number of incarcerated people with positive communicative disease tests, how many vaccinations were administered, and the custody. Committee and Commission staff will continue to monitor the conditions in the jails and will report as needed. If anyone has questions or comments related to this report, please email the Commission at coc@coc.la.
Anyone else?
Rob, just with regard to the ad hoc Oversight Commission regarding deputies, I think a lot more needs to be said. We had a sheriff on that subject, but just to say that point of view of this Oversight Commission, I think it would be appropriate to request in writing an update with respect to the Sheriff's Department is with respect to adopting A2 and A3 and related policies, perhaps a week before our next regular hearing, so we have something in writing at the it's happened, or let's get a further status report in writing. Just make that request of the chair. I don't think action on that. The chair does.
No, I think I was going to get us a written update week before our next meeting. That's a great suggestion, Rob. Thank you. Eric, we have a full house here in thinking that we have public comments. I want to hear those comments. So why don't we start that for agenda item 2?
Yes, thank you, Chair Kennedy. We do have 2 people signed up for this item. However, as a reminder, if you would like to make a comment, please submit your comment card at this table here. And for the people viewing the meeting on WebEx, please select the hand function. And for those listening on the telephone, please select *3 to activate the raise hand feature. Our first speaker on this item is Michelle Infante, followed by Raquel Derfler.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I don't even know where to start. I mean, to be out of compliant with zero tolerance of sexual abuse and sexual harassment, and then not even be able to provide the right data. Only 3 or 4 sexual harassments within a 12-month period that the OID worked on. But if your complaint process isn't working and you're bringing people up here that tell half the truths, how can we believe what's being written in here? And it seems like it was definitely a waste of time. I outreach, and I can assure you, Max, that every woman that comes out of there is sexually harassed. In 12 months, I go every month and I outreach. And to read this and hear them come up here and talk about how great it is with a soccer team, and then you mentioned something and kind of chuckled about it. I think it's embarrassing because when those women get out, that soccer is not going to help them, and we're talking about Black and brown women. So you're up here praising something that's so small instead of having and taking the opportunity to tell him what's wrong with that department. I didn't hear anybody up here say anything about what they're doing wrong. So it's quite embarrassing to hear somebody say that the soccer team was great when these women are suffering. They're being sexually assaulted in the very process, the complaint process. They would give you the more truth to some of this. If there was a process that was worthy of having, you would have more data. My data is completely different than what's being written in here, and it's really sad to come up here and know that there are people that are going to come back up here and tell half the truths. And most of you that are up here working, and some of you paying attention, and some of the commissions that are not, you could be asking the very questions that I'm thinking about if you were paying attention.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Raquel, and we do have one more speaker after Raquel, Helen Jones. If you could please line up after behind Raquel. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Raquel Derfler, and I traveled here from the Antelope Valley. I'm co-chair of a grassroots organization, Cancel the Contract. So I would like to begin by saying it was disappointing that once again, Commissioner Bonner was rather obvious in his support of the Sheriff's Department when he defended them against some well-taken points from the IG, Mr. Huntsman. It's exchanges like this which cause the public to lose confidence in bodies like yourself that are here. You're supposed to be looking out for the public interest, to be looking with a critical eye at the Sheriff's Department, and to basically be protecting the public from malfeasance from the Sheriff's Department. Moving on, I was pleased to hear that the Antelope Valley is on the Sheriff's radar since our Palmdale and Lancaster stations have been under a settlement agreement since 2015 for unconstitutional policing practices against our brown and Black communities. They are still not in compliance. In the latest monitors report, those stations were unable to meet the own small set of goals they had set for themselves. The DOJ's goals were too large. They allowed the Sheriff's Department to set their own goals. They did not meet those goals. So things like pepper spraying a 50-year-old man multiple times after he was handcuffed are still occurring. He was not disciplined. His superiors found that the deputy's actions were not outside of department policy. So we need to keep an eye on our area, the Antelope Valley, because our communities are suffering from the racism and the brutality. And I know there's gangs there as well that are in the Palmdale and Lancaster stations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, it would have really been helpful if the sheriff would have stayed here and listened to the public comments. I mean, that's what his job is. That's why we voted him in. That's why we got rid of Venueva, to get him in, to make changes, to be the hero for the sheriff department that's really needed. He should have stayed here and waited to hear about people being sexually assaulted. And not only is people being sexually assaulted by the sheriff department and by sheriff deputies, but they don't even offer these women therapy when they come out. They don't offer them no type of assistance, and that's something that this commission should think about. The women that have been sexually assaulted in these jails, even men that's being assaulted in these county jails. It's been going on for so long. This is not nothing new. This has been going on for the last 60 years since the sheriff department and county jails have existed. And this shouldn't be, this is wrong. And he should have stayed here and waited to hear that. And that's something y'all need to tell him, that you're getting paid. You're making a lot of money. You're not just coming in here and just doing this voluntarily. He's making a lot of money. And I know everybody look like, oh, they come up here saying this, saying that, and y'all probably getting tired of us saying this. But listen, we're getting tired of saying it too. But we got to look out for our communities. We have to look out for our communities. And the women and men that's in these jails, these are our community members. These are our families. These are our friends. We might not know them personally, but everybody is kin in some kind of way. And everybody is human. And that's something that really do need to change. So next time he come here, at least tell him, take the day off. You make enough money. Take that day off and show some respect to the people of Los Angeles, people of Compton, wherever you at, show some respect. And that's all everybody is asking for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we do have two individuals online. I've just sent a request to Mary M. If you can acknowledge the request, and please go ahead.
No, hopefully you guys can hear me.
We do.
Great. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I just wanted to say that I couldn't agree more with the previous lady that spoke earlier. Sorry if I didn't get her name, but yes, I believe that the sheriff should have had the respect to stay, even for the positive comments, because since I've been joining these meetings, I have really heard nothing but disrespect from the previous sheriff. And I feel that, at least now there is somebody that, or at least I felt, earlier that at least now there's somebody that is willing, to come and speak and represent. But the fact that he did remove himself early just, kind of changes that perspective a bit, because there's a lot of things that needs to be addressed. And, there's a whole new culture that he does need to create, to make up for past experiences that the community has had with the sheriff's department. One concern that I did want to bring up, and I'm sorry I did join late, so I don't know if this was brought up earlier, but there was talk about the tattoos and deputy gangs, but there wasn't any mention of the harassment that the families receive after a officer involved shooting, which in my opinion, that should be an automatic restraining order from any deputy that was involved in the shooting to address the families, victims in any kind of way. And that was something that I did not hear, and it's a big concern to me. So I was wondering if that could be something that you guys could consider bringing up in the near future. But I do want to acknowledge the fact that at least the sheriff seems to be willing to work. There seems that there's a lot of work that is being, thought of. And I just, hope that he's held accountable for the follow through. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have MJ King. A request has been sent for you to unmute. Please go ahead. We did hear you a little bit. MJ King. I see.
Is this better?
Yes, that's better. Please
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to remind this commission that Eileen Decker didn't question or challenge use of force or misconduct during her tenure on the police commission. So overseeing the constitutional policing department is quite concerning. I'd also like this commission to note when your questions to the sheriff went unanswered or were deflected from today. The deputy gang internal investigation, the sheriff referred to, the one that he said is overseen by the undersheriff. I just want to know if this commission's okay with the sheriff saying he asked her about her tattoo and she assured him it was a station tattoo, when that's exactly what deputy gang members have used to explain away their gang tattoos. And on item on 2D, I urge the commission to hold a special hearing on LSD's role in MCJ's safe and effective closure. How have we allowed 21 community members to die inside of LA County jails? How did 2 people die of hypothermia? How were there 315,000 pairs of long underwear available, but LASD can't be bothered to distribute them? This is disgusting and completely unacceptable. The United Nations visited our county jails because the conditions are so notoriously bad. So anything that he said is, oh, I have some good things to report, is a complete insult in the face of 21 deaths. You already know the conditions at the inmate reception center are human rights and safety violations. LASD is not doing enough to limit the amount of people entering county jails, exacerbating the problem in IRC. The county and LASD has been aware of these inhumane conditions for years. This commission must do everything in its power to dissolve the 3,000 boys deputy gang running inside MCJ and push for the closure of MCJ. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chair Kennedy, that does conclude all of the public comment.
Well, I want to thank everyone for their comments. We are listening. Thank you for keeping us honest. I certainly plan to convey the message to the sheriff that people would appreciate it if he would stay for public comment. We're going to move on to agenda item 3. Jamone Hicks and I have been at it for a while as chair and vice chair of this commission. It's time for us to consider to get ready for our next election, which will be in July. And so we need to take nominations for a chair and vice chair. Commissioners, you can nominate yourself or you can nominate one of your fellow commissioners for these positions. Today, we are just going to record the nominations. Next month will be when we vote. So if you would like to make a nomination, please raise your hand and we'll put it on record.
So I'd like to Sean Kennedy, serve for a second term as chair of the Civilian Oversight Commission. He's certainly been extraordinarily dedicated and devoted to mission and goals of our commission, and so that would be my nomination. I'll defer nominating a vice chair until we chair nominations.
Any other chair nominations? And we'll go to the vice chair.
Second, actually, for my nomination, but just a thought.
I'll second.
Procedure is always my greatest struggle, Rob.
On vice chair, assuming that Commissioner Hicks has the time to perform the role, and as Chair Kennedy and he knows, it's a much more time-consuming to be chair or the vice chair of this commission. Assuming he has time and is willing, I nominate for a second term Jamone Hicks, Commissioner Hicks, for the commission.
Danielle, is there anything else to do?
No, if no one else wants to nominate themselves or any other commissioner. Unfortunately, we don't have Commissioners Giggins, Johnson, and Cooper with us. I'll check with our county council, and if there are no objections from our other commissioners, if they have additional ones, maybe we can entertain that in July before we vote. They haven't sent me any information about who they would like to nominate. So I think if Eric has recorded that, I think that's all we need.
I just note one thing for the record. There's several of us here that were the original commissioners appointed back in 2016 at our first meeting in January of 2017 at Patriot Hall. That some of us. I just want to say I would hope to, but I would nominate J.P. Harris for leadership position, except that J.P. has told me so many times that he would decline that I just wanted him to know for that reason I am not nominating you, J.P.
Still nominate him.
So noted. Our next presentation is going to be about street takeovers, which is a really important presentation. So Danielle, if this is the appropriate time, I think we should take a break before we begin that discussion. How long is our break? 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So we will start with that agenda item right after the break.
Thank you, everyone. We are nearing the end of our break. If people could start making their way back to their seats. And for those of you who are online, we should be resuming shortly. So thank you. Okay, and we are going to begin again. If everyone could take their seats, please. I would start singing to you if I had a more beautiful voice, but if everyone could please take your seats. They don't want to hear that. Yeah. Whoever was, right?
Okay, we are going to start up again. And we're going to move on to item 3, which is street takeovers. Back in September, Commissioner Cooper moderated a virtual conference on street takeovers, and we ourselves have had this issue on our agenda. And I have to say, often when I talk to members from Compton, they mention street takeovers. So we thought that we'd get a report from the Sheriff's Department about how they're dealing with that. And we also have the Executive Director of Street Racing Kills here to kind of talk about the issues that are out there. And we're going to have a robust discussion about it. I hope there's some community input. So I'm going to let our speakers take over and start this discussion.
Really quickly before you start, sorry. I think we have the mayor back, is that correct? Okay. Mayor Sharif, if you would come up, we'll go ahead and let you make your comments.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am Emma Sharif, and I'm the mayor of the city of Compton, and I really want to thank all of you for being here today, and I most certainly want to thank the community for coming out and being a part of this, but not only being a part of this, but actually sharing your concerns about what is happening here in our Compton has quite a few issues that we definitely need to be addressing, but the street takeovers is definitely one of those issues that is really just destroying not just the city of Compton, but the surrounding cities as well. And we really want to thank, we let you know that we do need resources. We need assistance here to address this issue. I really want to thank Sheriff Nuna for the commitments that they are trying to make here with our city as a city. But not only that, the sheriff, but also the CHP, and other task forces around that's actually is active in addressing this issue. But I want to first also, stepping back, just actually thank you, the commissioners, for being here in our city. Look forward to continue to have dialogue with you in regards to the issues that we have now. Thank you.
Morning. Rick Rector, I'm a commander for Central Patrol Division. Central Patrol Division oversees Compton Station and 5 other stations throughout Los Angeles County. So we have 5 or 6 stations under Central Patrol, Compton being one. Simplistically, the job of division is to help in any way possible the station captain in addressing station needs and the needs of the communities which they serve. In a broad overview of how we take care of problems such as the street takeovers, we start at the station level with station resources. If we need more resources, we go to a division level. We pull in personnel from the other stations within the division. If we need to go bigger, we pull personnel departmentally. We could do that as a progression, or we can tap into those resources all at once to address the problem, depending on the situation. So use outside resources, such as our friends from the Highway Patrol. We work with our community to address the problem. We always know that working with the community gives us the highest probability of success in all the many missions that we have in law enforcement. We have short-term goals, immediate goals that we've been working towards on the street racers, as well as long-term goals where our hopes are to eradicate this problem, not just here in Compton, but throughout the county. Captain Bell and Compton Station have been doing a great job addressing this problem. Their efforts have been fruitful and resulted in a lot of positivity here in Compton. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Captain Bell to speak in detail about the efforts he's been making. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning again, panel, executives, mayor, and audience. My name is Captain Terrence Bell. I'm the captain of Compton Station, and today I'll be discussing our Compton Station's approach to these street takeovers that has been occurring in the city. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my men and women of Compton Station who have been addressing this issue. They've been out there tirelessly, effortlessly, going out there and engaging with these individuals who are performing these street takeovers. So I'd like to commend them for their efforts. And then I'd also like to reach out to Captain Joe Zizi over there at California Highway Patrol. We've partnered with them on many occasions, sharing intelligence, information, working together collaboratively to address these street takeovers in the areas that we serve for Compton Station. I did bring a PowerPoint with me to just quickly navigate some of the things that we've done so far. Is there a clicker or?
Next slide.
So as we start right here, this is obviously the agenda, the Street Takeover Task Force over in Compton. The Street Takeover Task Force consists of our Division Enforcement Team. Our Division Enforcement Team is made up of 8 deputy sheriffs and 2 sergeants. Now, our Division Enforcement Team is specific to Central Patrol Division. That is our division enforcement team is comprised of 2 deputies from East LA, 2 deputies from Marina Del Rey Station, 2 deputies from Century Station, 2 deputies from South Los Angeles Station, 2 deputies from Compton Station. And this is a team that addresses these type of events, wherever going on in the county. However, since this is a big ticket item right here, the street takeovers has been a big ticket item since April. And as we all do know, what occurred here in the city of Compton, where we had one event that resulted in a burglary, some looting going on at an AM PM, that division enforcement team was given to me, obviously, by Sheriff Luna, who talked to our division and told our division, hey, give Captain Bell whatever resources that I needed over here. So the division enforcement team was sent over here in April, the beginning of April. Also included in our street takeover task force that's working with the division enforcement team is our summer team. Our summer team consists of 6 deputies and 1 sergeant. Now, each station has a summer team that usually starts at the end of May every year. So since that is a county-funded summer team. However, since this is like I said, since a big ticket hybrid, there's no lines within Compton really with the street takeover group or phenomenon. I assigned that task force for them to be part of that task force. So right now you have 8 deputies, 6 additional deputies from the summer team, and then my special assignment team. My special assignment team from the city of Compton is made up of 6 deputies and 1 sergeant. So how we are addressing these issues, obviously, it's number one, obviously, we're enforcing the vehicle code and local municipal codes. We have stats. You will see some stats and you will see some arrests, and then you will see some of the community engagement on the next slide. The city of Compton and unincorporated areas, West Rancho Dominguez, East Rancho Dominguez, unincorporated Gardena, and Rosewood, have been at home for the street takeover phenomenon. These events are advertised on social media platforms, allowing for large crowds. It is not uncommon for participants and spectators to travel hundreds of miles for some of these events. Some of my sergeants, and I have been out there on a couple of occasions doing enforcement, when we cited and towed some of these vehicles or arrested some of these individuals, they've come from San Diego, from Orange County, they've also from Ventura County, but we also do have some that are local in the city of Compton and in the Los Angeles area. Next slide. Sheriff Luna empowered the division executives, Central Patrol Division, to provide Compton Station with resources to combat the street takeover phenomenon. A mobile field force, East Los Angeles, South Los Angeles, Century, Marina, and Compton stations, was created to address the problem. When I talk about the mobile field force, this was something different that occurred right after the incident in April 2023. So when I say a mobile field force, that is half the station resources. So half the deputy personnel from each station was sent to Compton Station for 3 weeks. When you partner with the Sheriff's Department, this is what you have. Since we are a large entity, department, you have the resources to combat these type of issues. And we wanted to send a message to make sure that, hey, if you're going to come to the city of Compton at that time, you're going to be cited, you're going to be arrested, or your vehicle is going to be towed if you perform in a street takeover event. So for 3 weeks, half of depending on certain times, half of the stations, the sworn personnel, were in the city of Compton. Now that's unsustainable. We could not sustain that for, obviously, there's issues in other stations. So they were assigned to Compton Station for approximately 3 weeks. And then that's when I created the Street Takeover Task Force after that. The mobile field force was assigned to Compton for 3 weeks, and it was very effective. Over the last couple of months, Compton Station has also created a Street Takeover Task Force, which I just briefly spoke about, that has conducted special operations every weekend to eradicate the street takeover problem. Now, we're not close to eradicating it, but we have done very well with our stats, and you will see. Many large events have been reported. All events have been shut down quickly, and participants, spectators are cited, towed, and arrested. On multiple occasions, the California Highway Patrol, under the direction of Captain Joe ZZ, has partnered with the Compton Street Takeover Task Force to combat this ongoing problem. Next slide. Slide. All right, so these are some of the vehicle codes that we use to combat the street takeover and the participants. Now, California Vehicle Code 23109, this is arrest for reckless driving and exposition of speed. So our when these street takeovers are occurring and we are able to identify the driver of the vehicle that's doing the burnouts, the donuts, and we're able to stop that person and make that traffic stop, they are going to be arrested for this section. Now, unless there might be some additional sections if there's some other, if they meet the other crime elements. But this is the primary vehicle code that we use for reckless driving and exposition of speed. There's several subsections to that. I'm not going to get into to read them, but it's 23109 of the California Vehicle. (23.109.2) of the California Vehicle Code gives us the authority to impound the reckless driver's vehicle. So when we're talking about, as you know, I've been in this job for quite a while, and we know that some individuals rather go to jail and not have their car towed, but this gives us authority to tow their car, because when you tow their car, you make a difference, and that vehicle generally stays, and that vehicle stays in our impound for 30 days. So it's hitting their pocketbook, towing their car, and we're making the arrest. Next slide. Now, there's a California Vehicle Code for spectators. These are vehicles that are left at the scene. When we're talking about the participants, people who are coming to these, who are blocking the street or whatnot. So this is the section that we use for storing vehicles who are left at the scene. Usually when our response team respond and we start engaging the participants and these spectators, some of them do run off and leave their vehicle. Well, this gives us the authority to store a spectator's vehicle left at the scene. 22651, this is where this is a general California Vehicle Code. Anyone who was arrested for anything, any arrest for any type of citation that we can take that person to jail. This gives us the storage authority to take a person, this gives us a storage authority to take the vehicle of a person who has been arrested. So 22651 of the California Vehicle Code. Next slide. Now, this is unique to Compton, the city of Compton. This is the municipal code that gives us the authority to cite spectators. And this actually municipal code right here we've been using, it's been very effective. When we cite individuals for spectating in the city of Compton, they receive a citation, and that fine is $1,000. So we've cited over 50 spectators so far. Obviously, you can do the math. It's over $50,000, but I want to say it's even more than that of individuals that's been cited for this particular fine right here. And as you know, that most cities in Los Angeles County have adopted some type of fine in relation to a spectator site. As you know, there's other cities that it's a little bit more, and I am working closely with the city of Compton to possibly, if we can have talks about raising that, because it's a very effective tool to deter people from coming to Compton and participating in a street takeover. Next slide. So since April 21st through June 11th, 8 weeks, these are some of the stats that we have. We've had 54 takeovers, street takeovers. We cited 200 individuals. We had 40 arrests, and we had 56 tows. Some of these sites, like I stated, are not just all in the city of Compton, but it encompasses all of the area that we service. So that's in East Rancho Dominguez and in the West Rancho Dominguez. When I say West Rancho Dominguez, obviously I mean unincorporated Gardena and Rosewood too. So these are some of the stats that some of my deputy personnel have done and been very effective. Next slide. In total, we've made 40 arrests over the last 8 weeks. 6 firearms were recovered. Multiple suspects were additionally charged for narcotic violations. We've had 1 stolen motorcycle recovered. We've been involved in 5 vehicle pursuits. Unfortunately, there's been 2 traffic collisions related to the street takeovers. Been involved in 1 use of force. I commend my deputy personnel because a lot of these street takeover events are very contentious, and they are using, I would say they are definitely using the appropriate tactics to engage these individuals. And even though, like I said, a lot of them are contentious, our deputy personnel are bringing their behavior down, and when we do the contacts and citing these individuals or arresting them, and we, like I said, for 1 use of force over the past 8 weeks, I think it's very impressive of our staff. As you can see, here are some of the things on the pictures on the right. That's a NOS tank. We recently had a pursuit in the city of Compton where a guy was using a NOS tank, and we had to end up calling our Special Enforcement Bureau, which is our SWAT team, coming out at the end of that pursuit. This is not that. This is what was covered in the street takeover. The next slide is a AR-15 that was recovered, and that was in the trunk of one of the individuals that was arrested. I can just say go back. There we go. So as you can see that on the bottom right portion, that is a assault rifle that was recovered for one of the participants had in their trunk. Next slide. Some of the dangers associated with street takeovers. The Street Takeover Task Force encounters many hazards when they respond to these takeovers. The unruly and violent crowds always outnumber deputy personnel. Often participants and spectators will deliberately surround a patrol vehicle, creating a potential ambush situation. The crowds have previously jumped on top of our patrol vehicles, preventing deputies from being able to move their patrol vehicles, which allow vehicles to flee. Takeover participants and spectators also throw objects, such as bottles, launch firework projectiles at patrol vehicles and deputy personnel. I wish you could see some of these slides on the left. I know with the lighting, it doesn't give you a little bit, but as you can see, what I'll try to show you right here on the top left is an individual on top of one of our patrol vehicles. Bottom one is when they're surrounding one of our patrol vehicles. Next slide. I'll just show you a couple of videos. The first video right here is one of the vehicles that was involved in a street takeover. This vehicle was, the individual was arrested, and we towed this vehicle. The next video just shows you a little bit of the dangers of the street takeover, excuse me. Let's see if I can play the video. Next slide. Basically, Compton Station has been partnering with the county of Los Angeles and the city of Compton. We are partnering with the Public Works, and they're using engineering defeats to prevent burnouts and donuts by the participants of street takeovers. So in a nutshell, I've been working with county leaders and City of Compton's leaders to see what, because we know that this is not something all on the sheriff's department that we can't, all on our shoulders. So we're making sure that we partner with our county and our cities to make sure that, hey, whatever we can do to help the city, install engineering defeats such as our bot dots. We've had bot dots in the city of Compton. I know that some people say that they're ineffective. However, there's a couple of different types of bot dots. There are bot dots here on Santa Fe and Compton, which we have not had another street takeover. They were laid out in I guess, was strategically, and we have not had a street takeover at that location since. However, like I said, the bot dots are different. There's smaller bot dots, and then there are bigger bot dots. So we want to encourage, and we work with the county and the city to buy the larger ones, because those are the ones who are definitely preventing the street takeovers from occurring. We also have surveillance cameras. That's some of the things that we're working with the county and the city to monitor. And then obviously signage, making sure that when we're talking about street takeovers is not just what we see right here, what I just showed you, as far as when a group takes over in the street. Well, we've had street takeovers where we've had participants in lowrider groups and who are hanging out on the street, and they take the street over and prevent travel. So those are some of the things that we're working with some of the county and some of the city to ensure that signage is up there, where it's no cruising, or anything that would relate to any type of street takeover event. Want to make sure that the community knows that signage is up. Next slide. Obviously, for community engagement is very key. Although my deputy staff is out there patrolling or whatnot, but the community involvement is essential, because as soon as they notify us, we're going to respond. So community station, our Compton station has had town halls to discuss the community's concerns about the street takeover. We definitely hear you. We wanted to make sure that we address this issue. Relationships have been built with community organizations to assist creating awareness. I recently spoke to a young lady that works at the Volunteers of America. She is partnering with other individuals to possibly change legislation. We support that, whatever positive direction that she is going with that. We've also partnered with some of the schools in the local area, because obviously we want to make sure that our youth, our juveniles, or some of the high schools know that this is not something that is something cool to do. They should not be out there because it's dangerous. Citizens are reminded at community events to contact us when any street takeover is occurring. We work with all community leaders and school officials to educate the public on the dangers of street takeovers. And also, I've recently had a meeting with some of our judicial, and we've gained, like I said, I'm just going to leave that right there as far as judicial support, because we wanted to make sure how we're addressing some of these criminal acts and making sure that they are sent over to the courthouse and making sure that they're processed correctly. Next slide. That's it for the presentation. I would ask the panel if you have any questions. I'm willing to answer if I can. But we also do have online right now, we do have someone from Detective Division, which is our trap, who is also online. That's an investigative component, but they're not here right now. I don't think they're going to do a presentation. I may or may not be wrong, but however, they have an investigative portion when it comes to street takeovers. My portion is strictly for Compton. That's what I'm the person for Compton, representing Compton. I just wanted to make sure that the areas that we service in Compton and in the unincorporated areas, this is how we're approaching it.
Thank you. I think we have another speaker from nonprofit.
Thank you.
We can take questions at the end, Captain. They'll help. Don't.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank the Civilian Oversight Commission for having me here today. My name is Lily Trujillo Paquet. I am the founder and executive director of Street Racing Kills.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And some of you might know me, some of you might not. However, I founded Street Racing Kills, after my daughter's death from a street race back in December 7, 2013. Our mission has been forever to mentor the youth, mentor our communities, and educate them regarding the dangers of illegal street racing and these takeovers, and just in general for reckless driving. We have created many, many programs for the schools and for the community. However, since 2014, we've seen this problem grow, as you guys have seen it. We have worked with legislation continuously, not just in education as well. And the collaboration with law enforcement has been incredibly so much help, like the California Highway Patrol and the Los Angeles Police Department and the Sheriff's Department. Anything that we have been able to try to do to prevent anybody from losing a loved one. However, we keep seeing it. We keep seeing it. And just maybe some people think, well, it was just one person being killed by something that's 100% preventable. We see the suffering of the communities. Someone just because of the noise that they hear outside, they can't let the children out. They're afraid to go out at night because of the takeovers. The pain from somebody that just lost someone and they had no idea because they never heard about it. Or somebody just hears about it. So we want to prevent this completely from happening, that you never heard about street racing like I did almost 10 years ago. We don't want to wait for someone to all of a sudden just find out about it because their loved one just died or they heard of someone that just passed away in different circumstances. Just sometimes even just leaving a takeover and they're still racing down the street and the pedestrian can get killed. There's every kind of situations that we have seen. So one of the things that we really wanted to do was create diversion. A diversion program where the courts could refer to us. That was very important. It was very difficult to do, but we got it, and we're very happy. It started through the pandemic as of 2020. We've had many, many courts, and one specific one, of course, has been Compton, and I brought a little bit of stats right here. And if you can see, Compton courthouse is the one that's referring the most. But we are very happy because we are going to mentor, with the help of the California Highway Patrol, which they come and talk to them. So we get to see where these individuals are coming from. Why are they doing what they're doing? Why are they? Some of them are just there because they got invited by somebody else and they just want to go watch. And I always ask, what city do they live in and where were they sighted at? So you see different parts. Most of them, unfortunately, Compton. This is where it's happening. This is where they're coming. They do go to Los Angeles, of course, and other places. But here in Los Angeles, the main hotspot right now is to come to Compton. So we cannot blame, of course, the people that live in Compton. It's also because they're coming. I mean, I had Joshua 3. I was very surprised. They came all the way from Joshua. And what did they say? Oh, I have a girlfriend that lives there. I came to see a friend. They have all different kinds of excuses. And like I said, someone is just watching. Someone just wants to have fun. Not all of them taken to the track. We try to mentor them. We talk to them. We have, up to this day right now, we have not had any repeat offenders. So we're very happy that we have the opportunity to talk to them. And we've seen, as from January to June, 570 individuals that we've been mentoring. And they're coming in and they're coming in. So very happy that we get those referrals and very happy to have the support of law enforcement. However, I feel like this is 100% preventable. We can do some more things about it. Maybe more venues where they can go. The only place where they can go right now, and I'm not excusing them for their behavior, but they can only go to Irwindale, which we try to mentor them into going there with the actually Los Angeles Sheriff's Department Motorsports. They come and they talk to them, tell them, hey, go to the track, save it for the track, go where it's safe. And their complaint is always saying it's too far. There's too many people. We have to wait in line for a long time. However, they do have a burnout box there where they can go do it. So there is a place where they can go, but they are far away. So maybe having something closer in Los Angeles, which I know would be very difficult because of liability and having the investment done. Cities don't want it, right? They're like, oh, wait, we don't want to have this here, right? But I think it's very important that maybe that could be a consideration because we do talk to them. We do have a survey at the end. What do you think it will fix the problem? What would it take? And someone will say nothing. Does social media influence your behavior? Why are you doing what you're doing? So we are happy that we need to talk to them and continue education, continue working with legislation. We have passed 3 bills, and as you know, AB3 will not be affected to take their license away until 2025, unfortunately. We have Ryan's Law, which is AB 1472 that passed as well, which if you do it again and you kill someone, you will be convicted of felony manslaughter. So the bills are out there, and we're trying to also help with street racing kills to support these bills and maybe create more bills as well to bring traffic education back to schools. One of the most things that we like the most is going to schools, create this awareness, and prevent our future drivers from making these mistakes as well. And I'm here for any questions if you guys need me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, any questions?
Indicated that what's being done, what's in terms of the enforcement effort here has been effective. And of course, the data, and by the way, some very impressive statistics here in terms of arrests and citations and impoundments. But that data goes up through June 11th, just a few days ago.
Yes.
The question is, can you say that there's been a reduction in the numbers or size of street takeovers since you put the task force in place and generated those arrests and those impoundments, et cetera? Can you say that there's actually been a reduction, or is it too early to say? And I'm also, if you get a reduction, let's say in Compton and the surrounding unincorporated areas of Guardado and so forth, if you get a reduction, does that mean that you've simply displaced it to other cities and areas of LA County or perhaps Orange County? So there are 2 questions there for you, if you can answer them.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Bonner. Just let you know, they've been very effective, and we have reduced the number of street takeovers occurring in the areas that we service in Compton and in unincorporated areas, partnering with the CHP. So since the task force has been created, we've seen a reduction in participants in the street takeovers. They're still occurring, but not as frequent, and they do not, the allure to come to Compton in the city of Compton or in the surrounding areas is I think we're starting to do our job. I'm not saying that it's eradicated, but we have been doing our job. And the only reason why I can tell you that is that every week I get these stats. It is definitely a priority to our sheriff and to our command staff, to myself and to the citizens of Compton. So I wanted to make sure that was the number one thing that is on the plate right now. And that's the reason why I reassigned these teams to this task force. And however, just want to let you know that the task force is not sustainable because obviously they're made up of deputies from different patrol stations, and then certain funding will run out. But I just want to let you know over the past 8 weeks, as I spoke about the stats, it's been very effective. We have, to answer your second question, we have pushed them out. We're starting to push them out. One good thing I always say is that we're not on the news talking about street takeovers in Compton. It's a good thing. And for the past couple of weeks, we have not been on the news about Compton. Unfortunately, we pushed them out to different areas. You've seen them in the city of Los Angeles and different areas. But we're going to keep doing that to combat that issue. But we're going to, our number one goal is to eradicate it. So obviously law enforcement's focus and direction is to eradicate street takeovers, but it's going to take obviously a collective effort from a lot of different entities, not just from the sheriff's department. That's what we're doing to focus on it and making sure that it's not occurring in the area where we service in Compton Station.
Now, one of the things you said too, in terms, at least as I understood you, that one of the prongs of effective strategy, you said something about judicial assistance, but I think you mean the criminal justice system, the district attorney's office, the court system actually recognizes a reckless driving case and it's associated with a street takeover, that warrants more serious consideration, including some jail time. So my question would be, are you getting jail sentences here? And if not, why not?
Well, as you know, what some of the concerns are, and obviously the arrest, the initial arrest, and these are fresh. Some of these citations are new, and so we have not really seen the effects of the citations yet going to court, but however, the component of the administrative citation, I believe that is essential, especially in the city of Compton, because what we've seen so far on social media, we've seen where some of these participants and some of these spectators are even now saying, hey, don't go to Compton. This is the site that one of our deputies already cited. So they're, deterring people from coming to Compton because you will get a cite, get your car towed, or you're going to get arrested. And as far as the judicial component, well, the individuals that we have cited, obviously for the more serious offenses of, especially with assault rifle, obviously that cases, I don't have the information to talk to you about those cases, but the reckless driving, that's going to be later on because it's like, 90 days from them to be, to see a judge or whatever.
Okay, and I want to disaggregate thing. I think the municipal vision ordinance that allows citation of spectators, by the way, my political leadership here in Compton, for obviously sounds like other cities around the county need to take a hard look at that. But yeah, I was just asking where you had a reckless driving situation, whether or not the district attorney's office is pursuing those for some jail time to achieve some deterrence. Otherwise, you're just paying a fine. I'm not sure it's going to be sufficient to deter this kind of conduct. People that are actually doing the donuts and kind of thing. What's your thought on that?
To answer your question in a nutshell, yes, the district attorney are following the cases.
Filing them and they're seeking jail time?
They are, I believe they are, but I know they're following the cases. As far as when they're following the cases, it's kind of out of our hand. We're just present the facts, and it's up to the judicial system to see how they're going to proceed.
Okay, I'll ask you that when we had a little bit more time passing. But thank you for
No problem.
the presentation.
Any other questions?
Jamal?
Morning.
Does the task force do anything to monitor social media platforms so that they can anticipate where they'd be before, so they shut them down even started?
Yes, we do have a component where we monitor social media. Like I said, we partner with our other law enforcement agencies. Like I said, such as California Highway Patrol. We share intelligence all the time. One thing I can share with you is that what we've encountered is that people will call in, stiffen a call. Hey, there's a street racing event occurring here, or there's a planned street takeover. It's going to be planned, at a certain location. Well, obviously they know that we're monitoring that, so they don't show. It's somewhere else they're going to show. So we've encountered that on a number of different issues. But, just to let you know that if it's something that is advertised, we're definitely going to send someone out there to prevent it. We don't even want it to start. But if it does, like somewhere else, we're going to handle it.
JP?
Is there any thought being given to enhancing state law to allow forfeiture of a vehicle that's involved in a sideshow? Impounding the vehicle is important. It's in the pocketbook. If their vehicle was forfeited, lost that vehicle through judicial process, seemed to me that would be a monumental disincentive to participate in these type of things. I applaud the mentorship efforts, and those are great. But it seems to me if you only have to probably have 1 or 2 cars forfeited, and the word would get around that maybe this conduct just isn't the smartest thing to do. So is there any thought being given to going to Sacramento and getting some enhancement statewide? So again, I'm not talking about necessarily, and I'm with Commissioner Bonner, I applaud Compton for their municipal code section to allow for the citation of bystanders. That's great. That's wonderful. But I'm talking about active participants in the sideshow, that their vehicles, beyond just being impounded, but be forfeited through judicial process.
Sir, I would say that anything that is positive on the sheriff's department end, we're going to look at every avenue. I don't know right now as far as, the process of that, but I guarantee you, everything is on the table when it comes to the street takeovers. And, I can come back to you at a later time and answer that question definitively. But right now, I guarantee you that everything is on the table and forfeiture of it.
Ms. Trujillo might, something that. I want to make sure everyone hears you.
It's Bill AB 72 from Al Marzucci. We are pushing that bill. It just started. It will be taking their cars away permanently. So it just basically made it a little bit. We're trying to clean it up a little bit more. But we're hoping it'll make it. So we need the support of everybody to help us with legislation to push this bill. But yeah, if you check out, it's already there. It's called ABD 72.
Anyone else? I want to thank I want to really thank Captain Hoarding and whoever organized this. I want to also say, really appreciate the addition of a community-based organization weighing in and bringing different experiences. As someone who represents a lot of young people who make bad decisions regarding this conduct, I think mentorship and education is also an important part of solving the problem. So, Ms. Trujillo Puckett, I appreciate your comments as well. Thank you. We are now at the point where actually we take public comments until we do the full agenda. So if there are no questions from the commissioners, we're going to do our final agenda item. That is regarding the fatal deputy-involved shooting of Andres Guardado, which we have heard about already somewhat. I just wanted to report this commission invited our district attorney, George Gascon, or his representative, to come here and engage with the commission about why the district attorney's office accept at face value such a compromised investigation, a shooting where the two detectives from the LASD homicide division asserted the Fifth Amendment when they were asked in a inquest about their investigation. We could not understand why the district attorney's office would accept an investigation of that nature. And district attorney sent us a letter which is published declining our invitation, giving us the redacted public memo declining prosecution of Deputy Miguel Vega, which everyone had already seen. I just want to say I think that the answer is disappointing. This commission obviously has no oversight responsibility over the LA District Attorney's Office. However, what concerns me is last time when we were here, the Sheriff's Department said, well, the investigation was fine. The district attorney accepted it. They could have asked for more, and they didn't. And the district attorney could have investigated on its own, and they didn't. And then the district attorney's office says, well, it's the Sheriff's Department that is responsible for investigating deputy shootings. So each side kind of points the finger at the other side for the substandard investigation. And I think it would have really added to the public's understanding, having heard from Assistant Sheriff Francisco last meeting, to hear from a representative of the DA office, but we don't have a representative. They did invite the submission of written questions, which is not as good as the kind of give and take that we had with the sheriff's office. And Holly, I really appreciate your participation last time on that. I know it's not always easy, but I think that we should take them up on that offer. So I'm going to ask the, I guess, would it be the use of force ad hoc that would be the most appropriate one, or the deputy? I will do that. I'll ask the use of force ad hoc committee to propose questions, which maybe we can also run by the ad hoc on deputy cliques and gangs, to submit written questions, just so we can have some understanding of the process, because our desire is that once we have a policy that the sheriff puts in place, that policy needs to be investigated with integrity. And there needs to be a true searching investigation where the hard questions are asked. I can't imagine how we can investigate a deputy-involved shooting in Los Angeles where a person was killed, and there are credible allegations in the press that the deputy who fatally shot the community member belongs to a deputy gang or was trying to be accepted in a deputy gang. I cannot understand how experienced investigators would not ask the question and investigate at the station, in this case Compton Station, what's going on in the station. You know, the people who know the shooter probably know if he or she has a tattoo. They probably know people are discussing efforts to be accepted by the executioner gang in Compton Station. And it just appears that neither the DA nor the Sheriff's Department, which was under different leadership, appears that neither bothered to ask that question or to do that investigation. I just can't understand that. And I think other commissioners struggle with it as well. But I guess we'll take the offer that the DA gave us and submit the written questions, and when we get the answers, publish them as well. That's all I have to say. Please, Rob.
Sure. It's a bit surprising that we get a letter from the district attorney's office that essentially ignores evidence actually that was developed during the course of the investigation of the Oversight Commission Special Counsel. But, you know, some of the questions would be you know, just to find out the facts of whether or his deputy that was with him were either a member of the executioners or were aspiring to be executioner membership by potentially using excessive force with respect to the court. You would think that investigated those facts, they certainly would go to motive and credibility of those deputies, nothing else, and very well impact the prosecutive decision in the case. So I just want to say that I'm surprised that District Attorney's Office, in view of the evidence available right now, hasn't reopened the investigation and requested further investigation of the matter. At this point, they haven't and got the letter, so assist in any way I can with developing a few questions along those lines.
I share your surprise, Rob. I think it's quite startling. I think that concludes it. I guess we'll just table this until we get the written answers from the district attorney's office. And I do appreciate them at least offering to. But now is the time for the public comment on agenda item number 3. And I think there are many people who want to weigh in. That's why we're here. So let's go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Kennedy. We have 11 people that have signed up for public comment on this item. If I call your name, if you could please line up behind the first person at the microphone. And the first public speaker will be Vanessa Perez, followed by Ron Dowell and Isaac Asbury.
I wrote this when I seen the agenda, realizing that Chief Bobby Winch was going to be here to speak. Chief Bobby Winch was at the scene when my son was beat. He was the captain of Industry Station, and he was there at the scene telling me to stand back and yet telling his men nothing. So let this be an example of how this corruption of problematic deputies moves up to the chain of commands. Chief Winch has moved up from the captain to now chief, while my son is struggling to accept his life every day because of what the chief and his deputies did to him. These deputies only did what was allowed, what the chief, Bobby Winch, allowed. Last month, it was Ignacio's killer you had on a platform, and today it was supposed to be Chief Winch's. I know there's only been promotions and not discipline. You guys are worse than the Catholic Church. It just shows how far these types of beatings will get you, right on top as chief. It sickens me to the core that he had the power of disciplining and terminating all these deputies and stopping them from hurting another, yet he did nothing. He's no hero in my eyes. And Luna, he's not here, and this is messages directly to him, if you could, to him. This is why it's so important to terminate these problematic deputies instead of putting them on a platform, on a pedestal, in front of the families of the victimized.
The state auditor's October 2022 report points to Compton's pothole streets, water contamination, and sewer leaks from failed infrastructures. In your commission's February 2023 special counsel report under factual findings says that overwhelming evidence demonstrates that deputy gangs and deputy cliques still exist and engage in harmful activities in several of the department's bureaus and patrol stations, including Compton. This is less about gang tattoos and Lieutenant Waldy's trial, which focused on his whistleblower status and whether he was passed over for promotion. This is less about the Kennedy Hall incident where deputy gangs beat other deputies. No, this is more about the millions paid in court settlements and the use of deadly force to end the lives of Avery Cody Jr., Sheldon Lockett, Dante Taylor, Andres Guardado, Ricky Cornell Starks, Darren Burley, Nicholas Roberson, Danielle Thompson Jr., Antoine Hunter. Except for a handful, Compton residents do not know who works on the Compton Station contract. Compton City fails to monitor and assess the value of the $24 million sheriff's contract and has adopted no policy on public safety in Compton. No policy requires all current and incoming sheriff personnel to introduce themselves to residents during council meetings. No policy prohibits deputies from participating in deputy gangs as defined in Penal Code Section 13670. No policy prohibits deputies who are members of seditionist groups such as the Proud Boys, 3%ers, Oath Keepers, and other fake militias. Compton's anti-policy approach to governing compromises public safety and public health in the city. Thank you for coming out to Compton and welcome to the Hub City.
Good morning. Thank you, commissioners, for coming to Compton. I appreciate it. So I want to thank my partner, Ron Dow. I want to thank Jackie Venters, my other partner. I'll speak on the takeovers, but the lady right there is the reason that we're talking about the takeovers. That's her. That's another issue, but that's her. Okay, so my issue now is takeovers for a minute. My issue is deputy gangs. In 2009, Sergio Reyes was a jump out boy and he shot Avery Cody in the back, not maybe 2 miles from here. He was 16 years old. He was running away from that officer and he shot him in the back and killed him. I also have a team intervention program where I work with young people who get involved in gangs and whatever the case may be. And they told me at the time the jump out boy shot Avery Cody in the back. Now, I've grown up in Compton for 68 years. I never heard no jump out boys. Okay? As I looked into it, the jump out boys was the deputy sheriff. The gang members, they gave the deputies the names of the jump out boys because they get behind you, jump out their cars, put you on the ground, put your car and harass you. But the idea that you would shoot somebody in the back, I'm law enforcement too. I've shot people. I never shot nobody in the back, okay? So what you don't have with a case, I waited for Waldy's case, I'm running out of time. I waited for Lieutenant Waldy's case to go up against the executioners, right? He lost his case because the judge didn't want me to testify in the case, right? I canceled my cruise to testify in the case. They kicked me off. They didn't want to add that. Now, I'm going to provide the commission with the number of deputy gangs in the city throughout Los Angeles County. I've been doing this for 15 years. You want to know who's the executioner? I know who the executioners are. We know how many fatal shootings they've been in. We know how many jump out boys it is. We know how many fatal shootings they've been in.
Thank you, Mr. Asbury. Your time expired.
But thank you, and I would like to present this to you again.
Sure.
I give it to you.
Our next speaker.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Asbury. We'll make sure there's a copy for all the commissioners. The next speaker is Cindy Enamorado, followed by Bruce Boyden, and then Anthony Lewis.
Morning. My name is Cindy Enamorado, and I'm older sister to Raymond Steven Olivares, a 27-year-old city engineer for Public Works Department of Sanitation, who was killed and fell victim to a street takeover as he was crossing the street with his fiancee, a LAUSD teacher. They were crossing the street to their home. They were not associated to any takeover. They did not have no connections to those type of activities at all. They were just crossing the street to a home they had just bought a few months before his passing. This takeover that impacted them and that completely ruined our lives took place on Alondra Central, made its way down Central over to the neighboring city of Rancho Dominguez, where they struck my brother at over 100 miles per hour. My brother had a violent, very violent death that no one should ever go through. I ended up with remains of my brother in my freezer because the scene was not properly cleaned. They were underserved. Law enforcement at times is used to not closing investigations or collecting evidence properly or closing these cases properly because of the type of people that they assume live in these communities. But no, you have engineers, you have teachers, you have operations managers, you have people who choose to stay in their community and build their community. And now I have my brother's murder only facing vehicular manslaughter because the investigation was not done properly. They just started trying to retrieve footage from the businesses that I begged them to retrieve footage from the week of the accident. 3 months later, they tried to go, and footage is all gone. And I don't think it's fair that this young man dedicated so many years, so much time into his education to try to retire early, to be a dedicated father and a husband, and he didn't even get that opportunity to get married. His wedding was scheduled for this year for his 12th anniversary to his high school sweetheart. Now the young lady's left disabled. And I think we have to do a better job at handling these street takeovers. The way that they're being taken care of now is just flashing flashlights, and they're rushing down the streets into the neighboring cities, and they're affecting the residents. I saw that Captain Bell showed 56 vehicles being taken away. If you do the calculations, that's about 3 vehicles a day. 7 vehicles over the weekend. That's not enough when you have over 40 to 60 vehicles at these locations, in multiple locations. I think we need to bring in tip lines, reward systems to get people to participate in ending these takeovers before they start. You already see the cars lining up and the vehicle just preparing 30 minutes before they actually start the spectating and the burnouts. So we have a tip line where they can actually call and report this and not be placed on hold, because I've been put on hold for over 30 minutes. We just had a takeover my brother's street again last week.
Thank you, Ms.
Still going on. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I just wanted to express, I guess, in a sense, about the great city of Compton. And I don't know if you know this, but Compton is the 7th city in the state of California. It's one of the oldest cities in the state of California. It was founded in 1888. So we're an old city. Not only are we an old city, but we are a city that is proud to be here. And more importantly, I want to speak about the presence of the Sheriff's Department in terms of the takeovers. Captain Bell is present. We see him, know him. However, we know no other sheriffs in the city of Compton. We don't know who they are. We don't know how many there are. We just don't have enough information about the protection of the city of Compton from the Sheriff's Department. Their budget, expected budget this year is over $27 million for the city. Outrageous. And we don't know how many officers there are in the city of Compton. As I say, most of the officers, we don't know who they are. We're not engaged with them at all. We just don't know. We just don't have enough information. In terms of the takeovers, it's pathetic. People have lost lives. I didn't hear that information about in the takeovers, but people have lost their life in those takeovers. I don't have the statistics, but it's 11. 11 people have lost their lives. Unacceptable. Unacceptable for the city of Compton, and we deserve more and we want more.
I have thought about changing my mind about talking, but after listening, and especially several things that they have addressed, one of the things was the deaths and the takeovers. The other thing was victims that's been shot by deputies in the back. There's 2 people in here, in this room, that's been affected by those 2 items. We've drafted up legislation, and one of my questions would be, is there a citizen's right to be able to write legislation to introduce to you that you guys can develop and introduce? A lot of the things that we had talked about in different community groups have been spoke on here. However, the people that brought them up, they're not getting their point across. So the legislation is being kind of watered down or not being done right, because it's kind of, well, I'll steal your idea and put it out there. And that's okay. But unless it gets results, it's just plain stealing, and it's procrastinating. It's losing time. It's like Miss Cindy was saying. There was time that she needed to have attention drawn on something, but nobody had the same passion that she did. Lost all of the information. Again, my main question is there any kind of way that the commission or the supervisors can reach out, or the civilians like myself can reach out to you all, bring these things here to get some things done? That's what the city of Compton is looking for. Actions, results, not excuses. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is going to be Jonathan Bowers, followed by Fidel Marquez, and then Valerie Vargas.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jonathan Bowers. I'm a resident of Compton, and I'm the council member for the 3rd District. I wish Sheriff Luna was here to hear this. I'm concerned about the fact that some of the data that's been presented has been incorrect. That's a concern. With respect to the street takeovers, July 5th will be my 2nd year on this council. I've submitted and presented solutions to this. It's going on 2 years. And when people talk about Compton, it's a fact. Because it's Compton, it's just not a priority, or the bar has not been raised. We know that. That's a fact. Yes, with regards to the street takeover, education is paramount. Information sharing is critical as well. So What's happening in Paramount needs to be given to Compton Sheriff. We need to talk about this. With regard to the bot dots, I've done research on that. The ones they're putting here don't work. I've talked with Paramount. They have solutions. You know, if they're successful in whatever they're doing, that needs to be shared with law enforcement around the county and state. It needs to be a consistent evaluation of the effectiveness of their task force and so on and so forth. I personally think when they respond code 3 and they hear the sirens, people flee like roaches, and that exacerbates the problem. I think there needs to be another approach, maybe creeping up on them with no lights and sirens, bring in buses or bobtail trucks to block them in, then come in and take your time and confiscate the vehicles. I like forfeiting the vehicles. This, to me, it's a slap on the wrist, you know, to give a citation, because people are bringing AKs and things to these events. This is not recreation. We're talking death that has occurred. These things are way out of line, you know, and we should nip it in the bud before it gets started. I think we could block these people in. If you're spectating, if you're participating, take your car. It's a wrap. We sell that and fund the damage that you caused in our city. Just the other day, they did it and knocked over a fire hydrant. This is in my district. They're coming in the neighborhoods now doing it. And they knocked over a fire hydrant. So there's water gushing out, which is a waste, taxpayers' money. They've knocked down stop signs. This is, again, down the street from schools. So it's moved from the major intersections to inside the neighborhood now. So there's no fear of reprisal, and I think we're too soft on them. To say we have nowhere to go.
Your time has expired. Thank you so much for your comment.
Okay, just to say we have nowhere to go is nonsense. You cannot destroy public property and do what you think because you have nowhere to go. That starts in the home.
Sir, thank you
got
so much.
Bloomingdale Raceway.
Thank you so much. We also accept written public comment if you'd like to submit your comment in writing. Thank you so much.
I'll talk more on this, but we're not doing enough for this. Thank you anyway.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I want to first thank you guys for taking your time out to come to a meeting that's been well overdue here in Compton. We have major problems, one with the deputy gangs that nobody wants to talk about, and two, these takeovers that we've been complaining about for years. These takeovers have brought trauma to the community. They have brought a huge dent in our infrastructure that is going to cost us taxpayers to get back to where we need to be. Now, these takeovers, I seen Captain Bell's statistics. I've been to countless meetings hearing the same redundant statistics. What he failed to mention is, I don't know if he filled the vacancies, but we have 29 vacancies in the Compton Sheriff Station. How are you going to fix a problem when your manpower is down? These takeovers come into our community. I'm in the middle of two major hotspots. I'm off of a major street fairway. They run into our neighborhood now. It's dangerous. Call and you get, we're on the way. But the way they handle it is they come with their sirens and push everybody out. Everybody runs. That's how people are getting killed. That's not the way to handle a situation. Take a drive back when you're leaving. If you can, go down Central Avenue and see all the corner houses with the gates knocked down. It's unacceptable for our community. We need help. We need resources. You guys know the problem. You know this is the major hotspot. Bring the resources here. Help the residents of Compton. I've been here all my life. I've been a third-generation resident, and I don't plan on leaving, but we need your help. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Valerie Vargas, followed by Julie Diaz-Martinez, and then Helen Jones.
My name is Valerie Vargas. I am a resident here at Compton, and I want to say stop inviting LASD employees to speak at commission meetings who are directly tied to violence against community members. Do not allow LASD to use the issue of street takeovers as justification for more funding. LASD can't even manage to take takeovers without causing harm to the community, particularly in Compton, where the executioners control the station. Looking forward to discussing the lawsuit about an LASD gang's turf war. in the next station, at the next meeting next week. And I want to know if Robert's going to be there or if he'll be standing in front of the camera trying to market himself again. Thank you.
I represent family members who have been impacted by deputy gang violence. My grandson was murdered by an East LA sheriff deputy gang member almost 4 years ago. I'm here to talk about a couple of things, one of which is my affiliation with the group Check the Sheriff and a letter that was submitted to DA Gascon. We're approaching, in just 3 days, Andres Guardado's 3-year anniversary, which is June 18th. We can never forget what happened to him. The community is still yearning for answers, and yet we are demanding accountability. The elected district attorney had the responsibility to ensure that the investigation would have been done thorough and conducted with integrity. Gascon was elected by many of us in this room, largely on his promise to hold law enforcement once and for all accountable for their actions. Specifically, we voted for him to hold the LA County Sheriff Department accountable, which as we know, his predecessor notoriously failed to do so. Yet when given the authority and responsibility to properly investigate Guardado's killing and ask questions, a simple question, whether these deputies were affiliated with a deputy gang, Gascon's office chose instead to accept LASD's self-serving and incomplete version of events. Given LASD's handling of this investigation and the department's well-established, well-documented culture of secrecy and obstinance, we have no confidence, and we continue to have no confidence in LASD's findings or the office of the DA Gascon. Time and again, LASD has proven the truth that police cannot police themselves. So we are not surprised that LASD's investigation was marred and is self-serving. Thank you.
My heart goes out to all the families that's lost their family members and loved ones by these street takeovers. I just want to speak today about how the sheriff department investigate their own murders, their own killings. Like in the death of my son, John Horton, who was murdered 14 years ago. I am a mother that can speak to that, of deputy gangs, the 3,000 boys, which this whole panel know about my son's case. I know my son, John Horton, was beat to death in solitary confinement by the 3,000 boys, deputy gang members. And what the family's been asking for years is, since this commission been established for the last 6 or 7 years, is investigate these cases. If the sheriff department knew that y'all was doing a separate investigation behind their investigation, they would change some of the stuff that they're doing. We really wish y'all would do that. That's the only way that, and I know it might be difficult for y'all. I know y'all got a lot of stuff to do, and I know, but y'all got the money to hire people. The county has the money to hire people to sit back and help y'all go through these investigations. Y'all be surprised how many people want to get involved to help y'all investigate these cases. I'm one of the people that would help too. There's so many family members that want y'all to investigate what the sheriff department is doing. You know the sheriff department is corrupt. You know that. I'm not saying everybody there, but the majority of them is, I think, 90% or maybe 99%. We know that the sheriff department is full of gangs, been full of gangs for years. They beat so many of our community members. Y'all know this. Why the families have to keep begging the same thing? Please investigate these cases behind the sheriff department, because y'all will get the truth, and y'all know the truth what's going on, and we wouldn't have to suffer like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final in-person speaker is Frankie Carrillo.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Frankie Carrillo. I am really grateful you are here in Compton. I was born here in Los Angeles and raised in Linwood, not too far from here. So Linwood, Compton, I feel this need to be here today for this specific reason. I now live in Antelope Valley, and I'm here to remind the Commission and the public about ongoing problems within the Sheriff's Department. So my story dates back, Linwood, as I mentioned, almost 30 years ago, actually over 30 years ago. When I was a young boy, I was framed by the Linwood Vikings, a gang within the Sheriff's Department, who falsified, coerced witnesses, and ultimately lied on the stand to make sure that I would be convicted. I was sentenced to live out the remainder of my life behind bars, and because great attorneys came to my rescue and amazing good people, I was exonerated 12 years ago. To return to this world where I thought things would be better after 2 decades, and to find out that that's not the case, that these problems are still existing, is the reason why I'm here today. To amplify and to obviously stand with the folks who have been victimized by the Sheriff's Department. I look at what I'm focusing on today as the white collar crime of the Sheriff's Department, which is they dress up really nicely, go to court, and begin to lie when they're forced to tell the truth, but they don't. The reality is that they're in control of writing reports, of narrating what occurred and what didn't occur to satisfy their outcome. We can't ignore that part of this. I know it's, I'm not trying to compare someone being murdered to what I'm just talking about, but it has to have the same scope and attention given to it, because they can't get away with these reports that are falsified that in some degree have the same outcome. And I'm just grateful to be here, and I thank you so much for the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you. And we do have one individual online with their hand raised, Ali Rubenfeld. It looks like you don't have a microphone connected, so please chat the host in the system. And Chair Kennedy and Eric, I'll turn it back to you to introduce general public comment.
Yeah, so we finished agenda item 3, and we're going to take general public comment. Right?
Yes.
We have a
Yes,
line.
Chair Kennedy. Yes, we do. We have at least 8 people signed up for general public comment. First person is Julie Diaz Martinez, followed by Vanessa Perez, and then Michelle Infante.
General public comment.
Hi, I'm back again. So obviously, I'm a member of Check the Sheriff, and I'm also a member of a community of impacted families who have unfortunately had to witness their loved ones in the community killed by sheriff deputies. My grandson was a kid at 18, was shot in the back at a routine traffic stop, of which there was never even a traffic citation. So the sheriffs in East LA, who were both identified as the deputy gangs, stopped my grandson on a false pretense. And the sheriff who identified themselves, when they asked, why are we being stopped, which is a normal question, were told, I'm not going to use the expletives, but shut the blank up or I'll shoot your head off. And true to form, they did shoot my grandson in the back. So it's very, very painful. Now, I'm here also as part of Check the Sheriff. I didn't get to finish the rest of my little talk on how angry I am with the DA Gascon for not doing what he was elected to do. So I'm going to ask the COC, please, it's time now. Conduct an independent investigation into the murder of Andres Guardado. The CAC should prohibit deputies with misconduct history from testifying at commission meetings. Follow up on LASD's implementation of the Board of Supervisors' March 2022 Transparency Ordinance. Fourth, I hope you're taking notes, urge LASD to adopt policies preventing and prohibiting harassment of families directly impacted by LASD violence. And unfortunately, the sheriff isn't here. He made a brief comment. he said he doesn't investigate necessarily tattoos, only behavior. I'm gonna approach this a little bit differently. The tattoo is a behavior. The tattoo is a declaration. The tattoos, when they go out to the community and they either beat or kill, that tattoo gets an enhancement. That tattoo grows. Treat these deputy gangs like they treat our kids, our youth, our juveniles. When our kids are picked up on the street, they have to
Thank you, Ms.
show their tattoos. And that tattoo
Thank you, Ms. Diaz-Martinez. Your time has
are
expired.
as a behavior. Tattoos by the sheriff department.
Thank you. Your time has
Our
expired, ma'am.
community is looked upon as a behavior. They need to be treated the same way.
Thank you for your comment. Michelle Infante?
Come here, you brought people, and the commission talked about some accolades. Of course, the sheriff's department came and had accolades from themselves, but it's embarrassing that you would come here and allow that to happen, because I didn't fight for that in 2014, and you know that, Commissioner Kennedy. A lot of people fought to bring these Black and brown families in, to give them a platform so they could speak. So you guys took away time for these families, and you gave it all to the sheriff's department. You didn't give the families who are affected by every single thing that we're talking about here on the agenda, you didn't give them 3 minutes, you gave them 2 minutes, and then when they still had something to talk about, you have somebody over there to cut them off. You don't respect the families that are here. You don't ask questions that are hard to the very people who are sitting in front of you telling you lies. And you make the Black and brown families behind me suffer for that. Get your shit together, and the next time you guys come up here, you better have something to say about what these people come here and what they do, and that's lie to everyone in here. All of this says they're not in compliance. Do you know how long PREA has been? For 20 years, since 2003. Every one of these pages says they're out of compliance. And every one of you, every commissioner, every one of you came up here, and not one of you had enough to say bad about the very people who are killing people, who are beating up people, who are treating people with mental health problems terrible, and you're not even giving the families enough time that we fought for to give them. Get your shit together and let them talk.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Marjorie Shipp, followed by Bruce Boyden, and then Jacqueline Venters.
Good afternoon, or good morning. My name is Marjorie Shipp, and I had a question. When Chief Lunis was speaking, he said that he didn't look at the tattooed, he was looking at something else. I can't remember what he said. But anyway, I wanted to ask him that when he sees the tattoos, does he actually promote these people? Or does anyone here know? Do they get promoted with that type of tattooed on their arms? I've been keeping up with those, I forgot the names, but anyway, those two gangs, one in Compton and one in LA. And I think it's terrible that we have that caliber of people. It's supposed to be safety for our community, exhibiting that kind of behavior. And I'm hoping by you coming here today that you will make a difference, because a lot of our youth are suffering. Some of them have died. So please, see what you can do for our community and make a difference. But I still would like to know, does he promote these people with those tattoos? Thank you.
Back again. This issue around the tattoos is the whole process is unacceptable. The sheriff said to us today that there's no policy around officers having tattoos. They have begun to ask the question for promotion. Well, what about all the others that aren't up for promotion that belong to the gang? We know that it exists. We know that they proudly hold their leg up and show their tattoo or on their arm. It is unacceptable. Not only is it unacceptable, it's uncivilized that we have gangs in our stations. Commissioners, you have to do something. You can't allow, and I understand he wants to talk to the union. That's all well and fine. We want to collaborate with people. But when the union begins to dictate the functions or activities of the sheriff's department, it too is unacceptable. So we simply have to do something. We can't wait on the sheriff to say, well, it's a process and it's going to take time while people are still losing their lives. You have to do something. It is unacceptable, and it's unacceptable to the citizens of the city of Compton, the surrounding area. Thank you.
Welcome to the CPT, you guys. It's good to see you at another venue, our home. But we have fought hard, myself, Mr. Asbury and Ryan, to get the investigation open into the sheriff department, and they have been exposed that it is deputy gangs in there. And we want to know what they're going to do about it. You guys know my situation. My son was shot 5 times in the back April the 4th and was excluded from the planted weapon. But because of the abuse that he received while in the county jail and from the court with no representation, he was forced to take a deal. It shouldn't take this long. I've been fighting for 12 years for justice, and it should never take this long with the evidence that I have. Never. We just seen a guy that was exonerated for 30 years for a crime that he didn't do. My thing is holding these deputies accountable. When you find out that they have committed a crime, death duty is not acceptable. And this is what Deputy Gonzalez Azusa was given when he shot my son 5 times in the back. And not only did he shoot my son, he had 4 other people that he shot in 7 months. Unacceptable. Most of the captains here, and this is not personal against our Los Angeles Sheriff Department, because I don't have nothing but love for them. I have family members that serve, and they have helped me push my son's case into the Deputy District Attorney's office. I don't know what's going to happen, but I've been praying and giving it to God that he's going to get justice. But we need to start holding these deputies accountable for their illegal actions. And once we do, some of these things will stop. We are being affected by their actions and no accountability. And these families are in here mourning. And thank God my son is alive, but he's been in prison for 12 years for something that he shouldn't be in there for. And I'm praying for everybody that a change will come in our law enforcement.
Our next speaker is Helen Jones, followed by Paula Yanes, and then Stephanie Luna.
Quick, I just want to say this to the commission. Letting this commission step up, investigate these cases, investigate all the deaths that's in the hands of the sheriff department. Sheriff department going to continue to go without accountability. Families are going to keep mourning, like my family. We've been mourning for 14 years. And the reason why we never got accountability for not one officer was 10 deputies that beat my son to death in solitary confinement, covered his death with a suicide, a phony suicide, bust his liver, bust his kidney, broke his nose, hit him in the head with a flashlight, bust his pelvis, bust a muscle in his back, and I don't even know all the other injuries. They put a bust injury on his shoulder, so much other stuff, bust his mouth, and this has been covered up for 14 years. The autopsy report clearly shows that. Now, what the county coroner is doing with the sheriff department is just pure corruption. Unless in this body stand up and investigate these cases, nothing would never happen with the sheriff department. We would never get accountability from these deputies. We will never get accountability from the sheriff department. They've been doing this since the sheriff department existed. Please think about this, commissioners. Please think about saving more lives, because long as y'all refuse to investigate these cases that the sheriff department are doing to our community members, our family members, and our children, we will continue to lose lives. How many lives are being lost on the street and in the county jails? Plenty and many, and it will continue to happen.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Here? Okay. My name is Paula Yanis, and I want to speak regarding the deputies and gangs. And we've already known, and your commission also knows, that they've existed for 3 decades already. I mean, and that's already a known fact, so we know that already. And there hasn't been any accountability at all. And they're still killing our youth and families in our communities all over the county of Los Angeles. And that's why I'm here today also. I grew up in East Los Angeles, and I grew up in a time when, and maybe many of you here, when you were arrested and handcuffed, you were not shot in the back by a sheriff, you know? And my question is, why is that happening? Why are they being shot, period, to begin with, when there's other options than to kill somebody, and then to be shot 5 times, 10 times, 19 times? That's criminal all in itself. And that shows that the sheriff, law enforcement, that there's a problem with them. There's paranoid. Why are you going to get somebody and shoot them so many times? And like I said, there has to be another avenue. I was also a children's social worker for many years, and we were not allowed to carry an arm. We were not even allowed to carry pepper spray. We went on to homes where we didn't know people, and we knocked on their door, and we made contact with them to do our investigations. And not once did any of us have a gun, or did we have the need to shoot somebody, period. And I'm just trying to figure, I'm thinking, well, why do they need to have arms and then shoot somebody in the back? When we were women, the majority of social workers were women. And we went alone. We didn't go with a partner, with somebody with a gun or an arm. We went alone with our card and our integrity. And there's no accountability. So, and then for them to get away with it after all these years, I'm thinking, why is there not accountability? Why are there no policies when policies can be made like that? You know, you just write them down, you submit them, and they can be either accepted or denied. Why are there no policies after 30 years, and we know this?
Ms. Yanez, your time has expired. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
comment. Next speaker is Stephanie Luna, followed by Mark Smith.
Everyone, my name is Stephanie Luna. I'm an aunt of, I lost my nephew in 2018 to 2 East Los Angeles sheriff deputies. My nephew was shot 13 times in the back, 11 in his back, 2 times in the head by bandito prospects. You know, the reason why experienced investigators aren't pressing the issue of deputy gang tattoos is because they themselves are corrupted. You know, these deputy gang members are moving up the ranks. They're deputies, homicide detectives, under sheriffs, assistant sheriffs, chiefs, commanders, captains, lieutenants, sergeants, training officers. They're working internal affairs. They're working the departments that we're relying on them to be the ones investigating our cases. You know, they write reports for themselves. They set policies for themselves. They show up to court representing and protecting each other, much like what happened in my nephew's case. Every deputy that showed up on behalf of the defendants are named prospects of the Banditos gang. How do you think that went? You know, Robert showing up and scurrying away before listening to the public it's a coward move. He's accountable to the people in this room, and the first thing he did was get up and leave unannounced. Extremely unprofessional. You know, he can have all the excuses he wants when it comes to why investigations are taking so long, but we know the truth. We know that once you identify who has a deputy gang tattoo, you start piecing it together. You start figuring out what misconduct did they commit, who did they kill, what documents did they forge, what did they do to get them that tattoo. Imagine how many cases that would reopen all throughout Los Angeles County. In regards to Men's Central Jail, I might add that the conditions of the jail are not great. There have been 22 deaths just this year, 2 of which I might add were hypothermia. How does that happen in Men's Central Jail? You know, people are using orange juice boxes as toilet paper, and to call that gray is a complete disgrace. It's good to see the commission showing up to Compton. It's great to see you guys being out here. It's a little more discouraging to see that the sheriff of Los Angeles County decided to pick up, walk away before the residents of Compton were able to hold him accountable. And I think that that's something the commission needs to urge, is that when Robert shows up, he doesn't show up for an hour. He shows up and stays through the duration of the meeting, because hearing public comment, the reason why a lot of these people show up is to air their grievances with the sheriff. They've aired their grievances with the Compton Sheriff's Department. There have been town halls on Takeover. These people want to know what's being done from the top.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Wood.
you.
I appreciate your comment. Our final speaker is Mark Smith. Final in-person speaker is Mark Smith.
Greetings, council. Excuse me. Greetings, commission. I'm here. I'm disappointed also that the sheriff left early. You know, the very term executioner is alarming in itself. I mean, I'm really taken back just that this is continually to go on. I'm a planning commissioner here, resident here, born, raised, and educated, and proudly retired. I was wondering, is there some kind of constitutional paradox that the sheriff is in? Because he's talking about the union and these tattoos. I'm not clear. There's some ambiguity there that we can't get right down to it. What kind of message are we sending to our youth with this continued negative image that our sheriffs are putting out? Mr. Huntsman, I want to thank you for exposing Mr. Villanueva. First of all, I really applaud you on bringing this out, sir, commending you, because we were stalemated before that. And I keep hearing the rhetoric that I'm not promising you anything. I can't promise you anything overnight. Can't promise you. This is tiresome. Commission, we need action. We need an action plan, and we needed it yesterday. All right. And I would just implore you to share your resource, integrate with our city, and whatever you have to do to eradicate this notion, this culture that's involved in the sheriff's department. Share your resources, share your power, share the responsibility. Okay, and let's eliminate that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And we do have one in-person, online commenter. Allie, you're unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hello. I just wanted to urge this commission to stay diligent and to conduct an independent investigation of the murder of Andres Guardado. While it's somewhat encouraging to hear that LASD is looking into it and asking outside agencies, any investigation that they touch cannot be trusted. And until there's an independent investigation, the public cannot rest and get answers about what has happened to Andres. Further, COC needs to be more diligent and make sure that deputies who are associated with violence and harming community members do not speak at these commission meetings. It's traumatizing and insensitive and really undermines the purpose of this body. Also, please follow up on LASD's implementation of the Board of Supervisors Transparency Ordinance. A lot of this, we don't have data for that, we don't have data for this, would be prevented if LASD was meeting the demands that the Board of Supervisors and this commission have been putting on them, but they simply don't. Also, please urge LASD to immediately adopt policies preventing and prohibiting harassment of families directly impacted by LASD violence. These families come up here and are very vulnerable and share with you week after week what's happening in their lives. And this commission needs them to do that. The least they can do is make sure that these people are safe and not harassed in their daily life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Chair Kennedy, that does conclude all general public comment.
Okay, I think that our business is done here. I want to thank people of Compton for inviting us here. I want to thank you for sharing your stories. Some were painful, see, and I want you to know that we are listening and we are going to give great consideration to all of your comments and suggestions and constructive criticisms. I want to say to sheriff leadership, you know, we have done these recently in East LA, Palmdale, now in Compton, and soon in South LA. And the stories we are hearing from different people from all different walks of life of these different communities is so similar. And so I think it's important, I guess, Holly, you can pass on the message, that the union's opinion about tattoos and deputy gangs is one consideration for the sheriff. But over and over again in every community, we hear from the people that they are fed up and that they are tired of the outsized influence, the union's objections to investigating these gangs are. And so I hope action will come soon, because this commission has given the sheriff a game plan. We published 27 recommendations after I think 9 live hearings at Loyola Law School with testimony from many different witnesses. And so I feel like the debate is over. The question is what to do now. And, you know, ALADS has its opinion, but I listened to the people of Compton here today, and it's hard to ignore what they're telling the sheriff's department, that they want a law enforcement agency that is engaged in collaborative, community-based, 21st century approaches to dealing with their problems, like street takeovers. They don't want the executioners. You know, they don't want the gladiators. They don't want those. So we are going to have our next meeting on July 20th at St. Anne's Conference Center in Los Angeles. And we also will be having a community meeting next Saturday, June 24th at 10 a.m. in Florence Library. For more information, you can visit the COC's website. To the people who spoke, I really appreciate you coming here and sharing your stories, and we do intend to do something. Thank you.